Chapter 43-57, The Stone Spirit. It was so foggy inside that they could not see what was going on. Yun Shujo took advantage of the fact that everyone's attention was on the white fog and rolled into the stone door. With a clang, the stone door closed again. The dozen or so people were dumbfounded. A moment later, they exploded. What's going on? Why did the stone door suddenly close? Yes, quickly take down the jade token and try putting it back on. It doesn't make sense. No one has entered yet. Why is it closed? The person who opened the stone door hurriedly took the jade token from the groove and put it back on again. He tried dozens of times but failed to open the stone door again. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. On the other side, Hei Shinjo, who had turned into a small stone and rolled in, was also very confused. Okay? She was just a bystander. How did she become the female lead? This guy was still looking around sneakily like a small stone. At this moment, the thick fog had dispersed. Yun Shujo found that this place should also be a stone hall, but strangely, there were many jade slips floating in the air. It was as if she had entered a library. While Hei Shinjo was looking around, an old voice sounded, "Eh? Why did you put a small stone in? Since when can a small stone become a spirit?" Yun Shujo, you're the one who became a spirit. Your entire family became a spirit. Forget it. Since you came in, you have to abide by the rules here. Have you seen the floating jade slip? Inside are cultivation techniques, alchemy books, and talisman books. You can choose any one and infuse essence energy into it. It's yours, the old voice said. Truly a blessed person doesn't need to be busy. This fellow thought for a moment. In any case, that old thing thought that he had become a spirit, so it didn't matter. Thus, a pair of small wings grew out of the little stone and flapped as it flew up. This fellow circled around those jade slips a few times. The exterior looked the same, but he didn't know what was inside. Forget it, just pick one randomly. Hence, this fellow extended his claw towards the nearest jade slip and injected elemental energy into it. Who would have thought that the moment she injected elemental energy into it, the jade slip would latch onto her hand and actually want to devour her elemental energy? That old voice sounded once again, but this time, it had an additional sinister tone. Foolish human. Speaking up to this point, he paused for a moment and changed his words. Foolish stone spirit. Do you think it's so easy to take advantage of? You'll soon become my new jade slip. Humph. Those idiots naturally have to absorb their elemental energy. Let's absorb yours first. The old man said sinisterly. Before he could finish his words, he saw a large brick fly out from the stone spirit, pressing the jade slip onto the ground and smashing it. The reason was very simple. The large brick was furious. It hadn't fucking absorbed enough elemental energy yet, and this broken jade slip wanted to get a share. It was courting death. The jade slip was smashed to pieces as a rich yuan qi wafted out from it. Hei Shinjo naturally would not let it go. She immediately transformed into an ordinary-looking woman and began cultivating cross-legged. Chapter 43-58, Jade Slip. The elder was clearly a little dumbfounded. After a long while, he said exasperatedly, "You're courting death." Immediately, several jade slips pounced at Yun Shujo. The large brick trembled in excitement as it flew up and down, smashing the jade slips into pieces. It had been a long time since he had such fun. He was so happy. As the jade slips were smashed by the large brick one after another, the yuan qi inside continued to gush out. Hei Shinjo was so beautiful that she was about to burst. She could really do whatever she wanted. Cultivating in such dense yuan qi, it would be difficult for her not to break through. Seeing the jade slips being smashed by the large brick, the old man's heart ached so much that he was about to vomit blood. He did not dare to rashly order the other jade slips to attack Yun Shujo, so he came up with an idea of using someone else to kill her. Hence, he opened the stone door. The people outside were so anxious that they wanted to hit the wall, but they did not expect the stone door to open again. They immediately rushed into the stone room. However, they were a little confused when they saw the scene in front of them. Why was there a woman in the room? And what was that thing that was jumping on the ground? A big brick? Could this thing be the spirit of this woman? And why were there so many broken jade slips on the ground? Just as they were in a daze, the old voice said, "If you kill that stone sprite, this old man will give each of you a treasure." Stone sprite? Those people were at a loss, but they quickly realized that the old man was probably talking about that woman. Could it be that the woman's name was called the Stone Spirit? It was really unique. They naturally could not wish for it. That woman's origin energy was only at the first layer of Yuanhua realm. Not to mention them attacking together, even if anyone killed her, it would be as simple as stepping on an ant. The more Yuan Qi the little girl absorbed, the more it benefited. How could it allow someone to interrupt Yun Chujia's cultivation? The brick was fine, but that person's arm broke with a loud crack as he cried out in pain. When the others saw this, they immediately put away their contempt. They summoned their spirit souls and pounced towards Yun Chujio. Although the large brick was powerful, facing so many people and so many spirit souls, they were instantly overwhelmed. A cold light flashed in Yun Chujia's eyes. Since these people had already seen the large brick, then they could only kill all of them. Otherwise, the faction behind them would not let the 9th division off. Although her elemental energy was not as high as theirs and her number was not as many as theirs, but she was not afraid of death. It was just a pity that ghost talismans could not be used here. Otherwise, they would die at any moment. In the time that this fellow was slightly distracted, 3 people had already arrived in front of her. The weapons in their hands were all aimed at her fatal spot. Yun Chujio did not dodge either. She watched helplessly as the 3 weapons stabbed into her body. Then, her eyes widened in horror. The 3 people thought that Yun Chujio was dead for sure. Unfortunately, they did not have time to hide the smug look on their faces. Their throats were cut by the sharp swords, and their bodies fell to the ground. Speaking of which, the 3 people were too sure that Yun Chujio would definitely die after being hit by the 3 swords. Therefore, they did not guard against it. After all, a normal person would have died a long time ago. Who would have thought that this guy was a pervert who could not die? The old man said with a strange tone, "Io, this stone spirit is really powerful. You trash, she's a stone spirit, so she naturally won't die so easily. Attack, attack together." Chapter 43-59. The royal hunting group. Seeing that Yun Chujio had killed the 3 of them in the blink of an eye, the rest of the people rushed forward in exasperation. Yun Chujio's principle was that no matter how many people came, no matter how many swords you stabbed me with, I would kill them one by one. Let's see who could outlast the other. Seeing that another person was injured, the leader shouted, "Cut off her head. I don't believe that she can survive without her head." Therefore, everyone's swords and sabers were aimed at Hei Xinjia's neck. Hei Xinjiao still didn't dodge. She took the opportunity to stab another person to death. Seeing that Yun Chujia's head and body were separated, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. This time, she would definitely die. Who would have thought that the corpse on the ground had turned into countless purple light spots, reverting back to its previous appearance? Not to mention the severed head, there wasn't even a single wound. Demon, demon. She's a demon. A person was so frightened that he collapsed onto the ground. The others were also frightened and retreated repeatedly, wanting to escape. However, the stone door was tightly shut, so it was impossible to escape. In despair, the leader gnashed his teeth and said, "Let's risk it. I don't believe that she can stay alive forever. She might die after a few times." However, what happened next proved that even if they were all dead, the pervert in front of them would not die. Yun Chujio killed them one by one, leaving only the one who collapsed to the ground in fear. Yun Chujio squatted in front of him and bared her white teeth. "Do you know why I didn't kill you?" The man shivered like a little leaf in the wind. No, I don't know. Unfortunately, in the eyes of the man, her smile was like a life-threatening charm, and she trembled even more. Come, tell me about your identity and your plans for the future. If you tell me the truth, I will let you live. Otherwise, you will have to go underground to reunite with them. Before the man said anything, Yun Shujo took out a jade token and waved it. Don't try to lie to me. Tan Ming has already told me about the soul-devouring tree. If you lie, I will cut you into pieces. When the man saw that Yun Shujo knew about Tan Ming and the soul-devouring tree and even took out the jade token, he did not dare to lie anymore. He said in a trembling voice, Master, please spare my life. If I say it, I will say it. The man was about to continue, but he did not expect the old voice to cry out, What did you say? Soul-devouring tree? That old thing is not dead? Yun Shujo said angrily, Shut up. How can a cowardly turtle have the right to speak? The old man almost died from anger. This was his territory, all right? This stone spirit was too arrogant. When that person saw that the stone spirit in front of him actually dared to threaten the old man here, he became even more afraid and trembled even more. For a moment, he did not know what to say. Yun Shujo could only ask, First tell me, who are you people? We are from the Royal Hunting Group. Yun Shujo was stunned. The Royal Hunting Group? Wasn't that the royal family that belonged to the Ghost Clan? Why did they come to the base region? Chapter 4360, The Brain-Dead Fans of the Ghost Ancestor. Although Yun Shujo was shocked, she didn't show any change on her face. She asked, What is the purpose of you guys? Yes, we are here to search for treasures. Then are you here on a public mission, or is it just a private mission for you guys? Although Yun Shujo had guessed that they were here on orders, she still wanted to confirm it. Yes, we are here under orders. Tan Ming was also ordered to infiltrate the Hurricane Hunting Group. Oh. The Hurricane Hunting Group is just a hunting group in the base area. Why would Tan Ming infiltrate? Wouldn't it be easier to threaten them directly? Yun Shujo asked again. Because the leader of the Hurricane Hunting Group, Ling Sha, has a jade token that can open the restriction of the soul-devouring tree. It is of great importance. He was afraid that there would be a mistake in robbing them, so he asked Tan Ming to infiltrate them. That person seemed to have calmed down a little, his speech became much smoother. Yun Shujo nodded. No wonder that Tan Ming had to go through so much trouble. So that was the reason. Other than the two groups of you, is there anyone else? The base region doesn't have any more, but I don't know if the Ping region or the Imperial region do. My rank is too low. Yun Shujo frowned slightly. It seemed like he had a big plan. However, where did they find out about so many treasure locations? How did you find out about the treasures hidden in these places? And how did you get the method to crack them and the jade tokens? This is what the higher-ups told me. I don't know. Yun Shujo nodded. I never lie. Honesty is my greatest strength. After Yun Shujo said that, the big brick almost fell to the ground from midair. You don't have a guilty conscience. If you were honest, there would be no one who would lie in this world. Unfortunately, that person did not know and immediately believed it. He said mysteriously, I also heard the conversation between the leader and a masked man by chance. These things are to be given to the ghost ancestor. Yun Shujo burst out laughing. Even if you are making up a lie, you should at least make something technical to offer to the ghost ancestor. Putting aside the fact that the ghost ancestor did not care about these things, it was uncertain whether the ghost ancestor was still alive or not. How could he possibly accept those things? The person who was still a little scared suddenly revealed an angry expression. You're not allowed to insult the ghost ancestor. Otherwise, it'll kill you even if I have to risk my life. Yun Shujo, so, he was a hardcore fan of the ghost ancestor. Okay, just pretend that I didn't say anything. Let me ask you, do you really believe that these things are dedicated to the ghost ancestor? I didn't believe it at first, but from what they said, it seems that the ghost ancestor has suffered some serious injuries and needs these things to recover his strength. Moreover, didn't a sheepskin scroll appear in the base domain previously? So, the ghost ancestor must have appeared. The person said confidently. Yun Shujo, even if she cried, she still wanted to lie in the pit that she had dug. Although Yun Shujo scoffed at this statement, in order to provoke this crazy fan of the ghost ancestor, she decided to change the topic. By the way, do you know Princess Meiyan? Is she married? Chapter 4361 Soul Fruit. That person looked at Yun Shujo as if she was an idiot. Then, he immediately remembered that he was a fish and that she was a butcher. He shivered and quickly said, "Sir, you really don't know? Princess Meiyan has been dead for more than 10,000 years. Yun Shujo, alright, she was also confused. Although she didn't know the exact time, since Princess Meiyan appeared at the same time as Xingzun, she really couldn't live until now. Just as she was thinking about it, Xingzun continued, not only did Princess Meiyan not get married, she even died of love. It was said that she was bitterly in love with Xingzun of the Yen clan. After she heard that Xingzun had died, she committed suicide. Yun Shujo, this guy's mood was really hard to describe. Although the gigolo told her with certainty that he had never fallen in love with another woman, there was a woman who actually died for the gigolo. In short, his mood was not that good. However, this was only a legend. In fact, it might not be the case. The old man could not hold it in any longer. "Hey, that stone spirit, tell me about the soul-devouring tree. It'll give you something good." The old man felt that since the hard way was not enough, he would use the soft way. He did not believe that he would not be able to fool this stone spirit. Yun Shujia's thoughts were interrupted by the old man. She said snappily, "What good things can you have? Isn't it just these jade slips?" Yun Shujo sneered, "A soul fruit that can nourish the spirit soul? You're lying. The spirit soul can only rely on the host's spiritual sense to nourish it. There's nothing that can directly nourish the spirit soul. Even if there is, it's still an unorthodox path. There won't be a good ending." The old man was exposed and couldn't help but become angry from embarrassment. "You're ignorant yourself, so don't come out and show off. I said that if it can nourish the spirit soul, it can nourish the spirit soul. Do you want it or not?" Yun Shujia's heart moved. Although the fruit that could nourish the spirit soul could not really nourish the spirit soul, it was good enough to be used to feed the Go Weiba. Therefore, she showed a hesitant look. "Could it be that I really remembered wrongly? Alright, give me the soul fruit first, and I'll tell you about the soul-devouring tree." The old man hesitated for a moment, then threw a bright red fruit to Yun Shujo. Before Yun Shujo could see what the fruit looked like, she was hit by the Guai Chao's clamor and had to swallow it whole. The old man saw Yun Shujo swallow the soul fruit. He immediately laughed out loud. "Little girl, you've been tricked. Do you think I'm that stupid? Do you really think you're a stone spirit? Do you really think I'm interested in the soul-devouring tree? I just want to trick you into eating this soul fruit. Although I don't know how you can change your body shape at will, as long as you eat my soul fruit, you won't be able to change your body shape at will anymore. Even if you die, you'll die. With your flesh and blood nourishing me, I believe that I'll be able to get out of this place as soon as possible." Ha ha ha. That person from the royal hunting group felt that his brain was not enough. In any case, he was the weakest. It was better for him to silently watch the battle from the side. Yun Shujia's heart was shocked. She was not afraid of this old man, but the words of the old man had shocked her. Since the soul fruit had such an effect, there must be other methods to restrict her. She would first use the words of this old man to prevent future danger. Chapter 4362 was simply wonderful. Therefore, Yun Shujo revealed a terrified expression, and then said with a fierce expression, You are talking nonsense. I don't believe it." The old man said darkly, "You don't believe it? If you don't believe it, then try it. See if you can change into other forms." Yun Shujo pretended to try it, and then said with fear, no, no, why? How could it be like this? The old man thought that Yunchujo would not be able to escape even if she had wings. He said ostentatiously, "Do you know why the soul fruit can restrict your transformation? Because the soul fruit has the effect of locking the spirit. It may not be of much use to an ordinary person, but to a person like you, it is a poison that penetrates the intestines. Not only the soul fruit has such an effect, the spirit locking array or even the spirit locking effect of the primary artifact can do it. All things in the world are mutually reinforcing and counter each other. How could it be possible for you to not have any restrictions? You're really young and insensible." The more the old man spoke, the more he gloated over Yunchuji's misfortune. Although he did not know what kind of background this little girl had, she was clearly not an ordinary person. Using her flesh and blood to nourish herself was the best thing that could happen. Yunchuji's heart sank. These days, everything had been going smoothly. She had thought that she would be able to easily control the ghost realm in the future. This old man's words were a direct blow to her. She thought things were too simple. The old man was right. All living things in the world complemented and countered each other. How could she not be restrained at all? The old man saw that Yunchujo remained silent and became even more proud. What was the loss of those jade slips? They were just bait. "Little girl, do you want to end it yourself, or do you want me to send you on your way?" The old man said arrogantly. Yunchujo smiled faintly. "I haven't lived long enough. I don't want to die. On the contrary, you have lived for a long time. You deserve to die." The old man thought very simply. This little girl could no longer change at will. As long as he used the roots to entangle her, he could easily strangle her to death. Even if the big brick messed up, because of its many roots, it would be impossible to rescue the little girl in a short period of time. Once the little girl died, the big brick would also dissipate. The old man's thoughts were quite beautiful, but in the next moment, he was dumbfounded. He watched helplessly as the little girl transformed into countless purple spots of light and broke free from the binding of the roots. Then, she transformed into a huge axe and hacked wildly at its tree roots. The huge brick did not stay idle either. It struck with a loud clang. This fellow felt that it was absolutely correct to send the little girl to the ghost realm. If it was in the towering sky continent, how could there be such a joyous occasion? It was simply wonderful. It was truly wonderful. The old man's miserable howl was simply like a pig's cry. Those roots instantly retreated to the ground. What a joke! If they did not retreat, they would turn into root carvings. No, they would turn into a coffin board. The old man was obviously more sensible than the soul-devouring tree. He knew that he couldn't win, so he immediately changed his face. "Little grandaunt, I was just teasing you. Well, I've given you all the jade slips here. Go back and let your spirit pat them for fun. Look, the sky is going to brighten soon. Shouldn't you leave?" The people from the royal hunting group were all dumbfounded. The ups and downs of the plot had simply broadened his horizons. If it wasn't for the fact that his life was in danger, it would have been nice to watch such a lively show. Chapter 4363, We Hit It Off. Yunchujo chuckled. "You're just going to use these broken jade slips to get rid of me? Aren't you being a little too casual? Broken jade slips? Casual?" The old man's heart was bleeding. The yuan qi in these jade slips had been accumulated with great difficulty. The yuan qi in them had been purified. Using them to cultivate was simply twice the result with half the effort. However, it was easy to invite the gods, but difficult to send them away. It had no way of dealing with this smelly girl now. It could only grit its teeth and say, then what do you want? That soul fruit tastes pretty good. Give me another basin. Yunchujo said lightly. The old man really wanted to strangle this smelly and shameless thing with his roots. A basin? One was very precious, all right. If he didn't really want to kill Yunchujo, he wouldn't have been willing to waste the soul fruit from before. Young lady, this soul fruit has no effect on you anyway, so don't make things difficult for me. I'll give you a secret book of poison recipes. There are rarely seen poison recipes in it, so you'll definitely be like a tiger with wings. Bring it over and let me have a look, Yun Shujo said indifferently. The old man thought that Yun Shujo had agreed, so he immediately threw a sheepskin scroll to Yun Shujo. Yun Shujo flipped through it and memorized all the poison recipes on it. Then, she threw the sheepskin scroll on the ground. I'm not interested in this thing. Give me some ghost talisman's secret recipe, or heavenly and earthly treasures, or something like that. The old man was furious, but there was nothing he could do. He could only take out some of the high-quality herbs that he usually collected. Yun Shujo knew that it was about time. If she continued to force him, this old thing might end up in a life-and-death struggle. Thus, she kept the things well. She pointed at the person from the royal hunting group and said, "Give me another rare poison. I'll use it to control him." This time, the old man did not hesitate. He tossed 2 bottles of pills to Yun Shujo. The red ones are poison, and the white ones are antidote. Don't worry, other than this old man, no one else can refine such a poison. Yun Shujo picked up a red poison and stuffed it into the hands of the person from the royal hunting group. Then, she kept the remaining pills. Only then did she say with a smile, "Old man, I feel that we are very compatible." The old man cursed in his heart, "Hit it off. Hit it off my ass." He was simply an irreconcilable enemy. A great enemy. "Old man, since we hit it off so well, I have to give you a few words of advice. You also heard it just now. Let's not talk about whether the ghost ancestor is real or fake, but clearly someone has grasped some of your lair and some of your basic information. You'd better move somewhere else, or you won't be able to save your old life." Taking a step back, even if she could not keep it for her own use, it was still good to not let the other party have it. The old man did not expect Yun Shujo to say such a thing. He felt a little warmth, but of course, only a little. He had not forgotten how this stinky girl had extorted it just now. "Humph, you don't have to worry about that. I will find a safe place. But you, don't be too ostentatious. If you are targeted by someone with ulterior motives, your life will be in danger." When the person from the royal hunting group heard the words of the 2 people, the corner of his eyes could not help but twitch. If people did not know this, they would have thought that these 2 were best friends. Chapter 43-64. 2 Ziji's height. Yun Shujo smiled and said, "I also thank you for your reminder. I'm a lucky person. I won't die. I won't chat with you. After all, I'm quite busy. See you later." The old man was so angry that he was twitching. It was as if someone was willing to keep her. Shameless. Yun Shujo glanced at the person from the royal hunting group. "Let's go. Do you want to turn into a jade slip?" That person shook his head like a rattledrum and quickly followed behind Yun Shujo. The 2 of them walked out of the stone door and followed the stone steps out of the trunk of the ancient tree. Then, they realized that the ancient tree had disappeared on the spot. Yun Shujo thought to herself, "That old thing does have some ability, but I don't know where he hid it." Yun Shujo came back to her senses and looked at the person from the royal hunting group. "What's your name?" "My lord, my name is Tu Xiaozhou." "Yun Shujo, did little Joe dig up your family's ancestral grave, or did he block your family's chimney?" "If he didn't kill little Joe, it would be Tu Xiaozhou." "Was there going to be another Zai little Joe in the future?" "Don't use this name in the future. You can call yourself Tu Ziji from now on," Yun Shujo said coldly. Tu Ziji, who had just come out of the oven, "Sir, this name is too long. Can you shrink it a little?" Yun Shujo glared at him fiercely. "Then call yourself Tu Ziji." Yun Shujo sized him up again. "You didn't have any tracking powder or spiritual imprint on you, right?" Tu Ziji shook his head in denial. Yun Shujo frowned. Then how did the royal hunting group control you? They didn't poison you, right? 2ZG explained, no, because the royal hunting group is the best hunting group in the ghost region. Everyone is proud of joining the royal hunting group. Moreover, the royal hunting group is very powerful. No one dares to betray the royal hunting group because the consequences would be very serious if they were found out. 2ZG couldn't help but feel sad when he said this. He had to betray them even if he didn't want to because he had no other choice. Yunshujo glanced at him. Why? Do you feel wronged by following me? Do you want me to send you down to reunite with them? 2ZG immediately trembled. No, I didn't mean that, my lord. Yunshujo waved her claws. Alright, I won't listen to your empty words. I'll see you in the future. If I find out that you have ulterior motives, I promise to let you know what cruelty is. 2ZG thought to himself, even if there was no need for that, he would already know what cruelty was. This little devil was simply inhuman. What level is your origin energy suppressed to? Yunshujo asked again. The 5th level of Yuanhua realm. In the base region, no matter how high your original spirit energy is, the highest you can reach here is the 5th level of Yuanhua realm. 2ZG hurriedly replied. Yunshujo blinked her eyes. With this helper, it would be much more convenient for her to do things in the future. In order to avoid being recognized by the royal hunting group, shave your head. Yunshujo said with a smile. This fellow would never admit that there was another reason besides deceiving people. It was this fellow's wicked taste. Who asked this fellow to always be chopped into a bald head back then? Chapter 4365 would rather be called Tuibai. Although Tuzg was unwilling, he did not dare to disobey and was directly shaved bald by Yunshujo with a dagger. Yunshujo recalled her objective and said to Tuzg, when you guys came over from the Flatlands, did you encounter any powerful origin beasts? We did encounter some, but we have more people, so there's not much of a hindrance. Yunshujo rolled her eyes. I won't hide it from you. I have about 2,000 men under me, and my elemental energy is a little low. Thus, I want to bring them secretly to the Flatlands territory to cultivate. This way, the cultivation speed will increase a lot. Tell me about the situation over at the Flatlands. I'll see if the plan can be implemented. 2ZG pondered for a moment and said, Sir, no one from the Flatlands has entered the depths of the Qian mountain range. As long as you don't provoke those high-level elemental beasts, it shouldn't be a big problem. Yunshujo looked at him coldly. What do you mean you're not human? Or do you have other intentions? 2ZG was about to cry. This little devil was simply too good at finding fault. Although Yunshujo heard 2ZG's words and had some confidence in her heart, she still decided to make a trip personally. Thus, she brought 2ZG and rushed towards the direction of the base region. Along the way, they encountered a few high-level origin beasts. 2ZG was very self-aware and went up to hunt them. Yunshujo was leisurely watching the show and occasionally said with disdain, 2ZG, are you stupid? You should attack its weakness. 2ZG, have you not eaten? Hurry up, I'm tired of watching. 2ZG, if you don't end the battle quickly, you'll kill yourself. Yunshujo discovered that the boundary and the flat domain's territory had a much denser yuan qi compared to the base domain side. Yunshujo immediately decided to take turns to lead her troops over to cultivate. Taking a step back, even if they really encountered high-level essence beasts or people from the flat domain, they would not fear them by relying on their numbers. After Yunshujo made up her mind, she brought 2ZG back to the camp. Of course, halfway through, Yunshujo reverted back to her previous male form. 2ZG was already numb to it. After all, this fellow was a pervert. It was really not a big deal to change into a male or female, really. Sha Wuhan saw that Yunshujo had returned safely and finally let out a sigh of relief. When he saw 2ZG following behind her, he asked, Little Joe, this is? 2ZG's head buzzed. He finally understood why this little devil had made him change his name. Why was he tormented? Heavens, if he knew that he would one day fall at her hands, he would rather be called Tu Yibai or Tu Yuan than the damned Tu Xiaojiu. Yun Shujiu curled the corners of her lips. His big name is Tu Ziji, his nickname is Tu Ziji. Sha Wuhan, there was a person with such a name? It was really unique. Tu Ziji wanted to cry but had no tears as he nodded at Sha Wuhan. He had no choice. He was now hiding his tail between his legs and did not dare to not keep a low profile. Yun Shujiu told him about the situation she had investigated. Then, she said, "Big brother, leaving half of the people in the camp is enough to resist the external enemies. Let them take turns to cultivate at the edge of the flatland. This way, their elemental energy level will rise very quickly, and we will have the qualifications to contend with the hurricane hunting group." Sha Wuhan was both surprised and delighted. He immediately discussed the details with Yun Shujiu. Chapter 4366 arrived. Starting from the next day, the members of the 9th Division took turns to cultivate at the edge of the Pingqing region. Yun Shujiu and Tu Ziji had been stationed there to prevent any unexpected situations from happening at the Pingqing region. As Yun Shujiu had absorbed the jade slip that she had extorted from the old man, her elemental energy level had also soared to the 4th level of Yuanhua realm. She had even given the jade slip to Sha Wuhan and the others, leaving a few for the short fatty. Leng Sha, the captain of the hurricane hunting group, finally found out the origin of the black jade token. After knowing that it was the royal hunting group, he was so frightened that he did not dare to continue investigating. After a period of peace, when he heard that the 9th Division had annexed the 1st and 2nd Divisions, he immediately shifted his anger onto the 9th Division. What was the 9th Division trying to do? Previously, when they had annexed the 1st Division of Blizzard, their strength was already above that of the other divisions. Now, they had annexed 2 more divisions. Were they trying to compete with the main division? Leng Sha immediately sent 1,000 elites to encircle the 9th Division. Firstly, he wanted to eliminate the scourge. Secondly, he wanted to take the opportunity to collect money. After all, his storage ring had been swindled away by He Xinjiu. Yun Shujiu sent a spy near the headquarters and immediately transmitted the news back. Yun Shujiu smiled and said to Sha Wuhan, "Big brother, the opportunity for our Thunderbolt hunting group to appear out of nowhere has arrived." Sha Wuhan nodded. He originally felt that the plans Yun Shujiu mentioned were all in the mirror, but now that he looked at it, it did not seem to be that difficult. His elemental energy had also reached the 3rd level of the Origin Core realm. Although he was not as abnormal as Hei Xinjiu, his speed was still very fast. This was something that he did not dare to think about in the past. All of this was brought about by Little Jiu. The hurricane hunting regiment's 1,000 elites did not put the 9th Division in their eyes at all. What was the use of having more people? They were just a bunch of mobs. As expected, when they reached the vicinity of the mountain pass, those people from the 9th Division were scared out of their wits. They threw down their weapons and ran into the mountain. They simply could not withstand a single blow. The hurricane hunting group chased closely behind, wanting to take down the 9th Division in one fell swoop. However, when they entered a narrow area, rolling logs and boulders were thrown down from both sides of the cliff. What was even worse was that there were several ghost talismans mixed in. The people from the hurricane hunting group were simply beaten to a pulp. Putting aside the fact that they had fallen into an ambush, who could tell them why a mere division would have so many ghost talismans? Where did they get them from? Seeing that the situation was not looking good, the deputy leader, Yu Lai, immediately ordered the team to change their leader and retreat. However, before they had walked far, the road ahead was blocked by someone. The leader was an ugly-looking woman with a large brick floating above her head. On her left stood a square-faced man who looked imposing without being angry. On her right was a bald man. Although not many people knew that Yun Shujiu's spirit soul was a big brick, Yu Lai had heard of it before. He frowned. Didn't they say that Zhen Meili died in the cave of 1,000 ghosts? How could it appear again? Her origin energy had actually reached the 4th level of Yuanhua realm? Also, he actually couldn't see through the level of that bald man's origin energy. Could it be that he had already reached the 5th level of Yuanhua realm? This was still not the thing that shocked Yu Lai the most. What shocked him the most was that half of those subordinates behind Yun Shujiu had already reached the Yuanhua realm. How was this possible? They were merely a subgroup. How did their origin energy actually get close to their main group? Yu Lai instantly had an ominous premonition in his heart. Just now, he had already lost nearly half of his men. Although the opponent's origin energy was lower than theirs, they had taken advantage of the right time, place, and people. It was likely that they would be defeated. Chapter 4367, Thunderbolt Hunting Squad. Yun Shujiu said with a smile, "Fight or surrender, it's your choice. I don't like to force others. If you surrender, I can promise you that I will take you to the Ping domain or even the Imperial domain. If you want to fight, I don't object. After all, it's a night of high wind killing people. It's not bad to kill a few people for fun." Tu Ziji, who was beside Yun Shujiu, twitched the corner of his mouth. What a pervert. Yu Lai was more or less tempted. He had spent enough time in the scum domain, but could Zhen Meili's words be believed? Could she really lead them to the flat domain? Yun Shujiu chuckled, then, she pointed at Tu Ziji and said, "If he trusts me, what are you guys worried about? Besides, I was just a servant of Thorn Forest. Now, I have more than 2,000 subordinates. It has only been a few months. As long as you follow me, I promise to fulfill my promise. If I can't bring you to the even zone, you can leave when the time comes." Hearing this, the hurricane hunting squad felt that it made sense. If it didn't work, they could leave. Could Zhen Meili still detain them? Tu Ziji cursed in his heart. They were already on a pirate ship, yet they still wanted to go down? In their dreams. This guy was a devil that would eat people without spitting out their bones. The two sides were in a stalemate for half an hour until Yun Shujiu took out a thick stack of ghost talismans. Yu Lai and the other psychological defenses were completely broken and they agreed to surrender. In the next few days, Yun Shujiu was busy reorganizing the hurricane hunting squad and then led them straight to the hurricane hunting squad's lair. Of course, before that, He Xinjiu had already sneaked into their well and poisoned it. Therefore, she did not fight back and reorganized the remaining few hundred members of the hurricane hunting group. The leader, Ling Sha, was also killed by Tu Ziji. Thus, the hurricane hunting group became history. The thunderbolt hunting group appeared out of nowhere. Yun Shujiu did not set her headquarters at the original stronghold of the hurricane hunting group. Instead, she set it at the Qian mountain range. The 3rd Division and the other subdivisions were all fence-sitters. When they saw Ling Sha fall, they all came over to congratulate him and expressed their willingness to submit. Yun Shujiu no longer looked up to hunters with low elemental energy in the subdivision, so she did not recruit them. She only made them pay their tribute on time. After a few days, the short fatty returned in a hurry. However, now the short fatty had become the short skinny one. When he saw Yun Shujiu, he howled, "Little Jiu, you don't know." In order to lose weight, second brother almost ate his face green from eating vegetables. Yun Shujiu couldn't help but laugh. She passed the few jade slips she left to him. "Second brother, your origin energy is the lowest now. You have to work harder. Otherwise, we won't bring you to the flat domain." When the short fatty heard this, he immediately stopped howling and kept the jade slips to cultivate. This day, Yun Shujiu was studying sword techniques when an uninvited guest came to the camp. "Commander Zhen, on behalf of our Blizzard Hunting Group's Commander Sima, I would like to express my congratulations to you. In 5 days, the date of the 3 Great Hunting Groups competition will be set. Commander Zhen, please spare some time to participate on time," the Blizzard Hunting Group's emissary said in a literal manner. Yun Shujo really didn't know that there was such a thing as a competition. However, their Thunderbolt hunting group had just been established, so they naturally had to make a name for themselves. Moreover, this fellow was coveting the elites of the two great hunting groups. Hence, she smiled and said, since it's a conventional rule, our Thunderbolt hunting group naturally has to participate. Chapter 4368 was filled with tears after the messenger of the Blizzard hunting group left. Yun Shujo gathered her thoughts together and looked at Yu Lai. Deputy Commander Yu, tell me about this competition. In order to win over the hearts of the people, Yun Shujo accepted Yu Lai as the third deputy commander. This guy was very shrewd. The first deputy commander was Sha Wuhan, the second deputy commander was Tu Ziji, and the third deputy commander was Yu Lai. Although they were both deputy commanders, there was still a difference in strength. Yu Lai was quite satisfied. After all, he was a later generation. Even if he was given a group leader, he would still have to endure it. Especially since the Hurricane hunting group no longer existed, he did not have any other thoughts. Hearing Yun Shujo ask him, he hurriedly said, Commander, the three groups compete once a year. This year, it happens to be the Blizzard hunting group's turn to be the host. Saying that it was the host was actually just setting things up. There wasn't much else to do. The competition's contents were divided into two categories. One was the elemental energy competition, and the other was the spirit soul competition. The two categories would be ranked after adding up the points. The winning prize was the right to hunt in the Black Fog Mountain Range. Last year's winner was the Blizzard hunting squad, so the Black Fog Mountain Range's hunting advice last year was given to the Blizzard hunting squad. Yun Shujo was not interested in the hunting rights in the Black Fog Mountain Range. However, if she could obtain the first place in the three group competitions, it would be convenient for her to take over the two hunting groups in the future. Moreover, the elemental energy competition had Tuzg and the spirit soul competition had her. There should be no problem for her to obtain first place. Yun Shujo thought and said the same thing. Then, she saw that Yu Lai was a little hesitant to speak. Yun Shujo raised her chin, indicating for him to speak freely. Regiment Commander, it's not a problem to let Deputy Regiment Commander 2 participate in the spiritual power competition. However, it's most likely not suitable for you to participate in this spiritual power competition, Yu Lai said with some difficulty. Oh. What's wrong with my big brick? Why is it not suitable? Yun Shujo asked unwillingly. Although she also despised it, it was one thing to despise it herself, but it was another thing to be despised by others. Leader, you may not know this, but the spirit soul competition is not about strength, but agility. The higher the degree of agility, the higher the spirit soul's intelligence, the greater the growth potential. It is impossible for Earth-grade spirit souls to exist in our lowly domain. The participants are all black-grade spirit souls, so this intelligence is especially important. Yu Lai did not say it too directly, but the meaning was obvious. The flexibility of the big brick could not be compared to the beast spirit and plant spirit, so it would be tormented if it went up. For example, if it was a competition to pick fruits, the beast spirits could use their claws, the plant spirits could use branches or vines. What could the large brick use? Yun Shujo thought about it and felt that it was true, but she could not. There were still others. Thus, she said, then when the time comes, let the other spirit souls compete. No matter what, the first place in the origin energy competition will definitely be ours. Even if the spirit soul competition is the last place, it won't be shameful. Everyone thought to themselves that their regiment commander had a big heart. Very soon, it was the day of the competition. Yun Shujo, this fellow, liked to pay attention to ostentation. Not only did she flutter her banners, but she also beat drums and gongs. She was very smug. Sha Wuhan and the others were all very speechless. They were a hunting regiment, not a troop. Was it really good to be so ostentatious? Then, they looked at their regiment commander Xiao Hong. He was originally ugly and wore a bright red shirt. There was even a little red flower drawn between his brows. That scene was really unbearable to look at. 2ZG was puzzled. Logically speaking, this little devil could transform at will. Why didn't he transform into a better-looking image? How would he know that Hei Shinjo was forced to transform from a man into a man? It was a tearful scene. Chapter 43-69 Thunder Blossom Blizzard Hunting Regiment's Commander Sima and Lightning Hunting Regiment's Commander Luo had never seen Yunchujo in person, so one could imagine the impact they would have upon seeing Yunchujo. The two of them were too shocked, so they only recovered from their shock when Yunchujo sat down. Commander Sima said with a fake smile, "Commander Jin really lives up to his name, this one has opened my eyes." Yunchujo said with a smile, "Commander Sima, you really have a good eye. I am a flower of our Thunderbolt hunting group." The corner of Commander Sima's mouth twitched. A flower? Goei Batsao was more like it. Commander Luo said with a strange tone, "I heard that Commander Zhen has been promoted from a servant to the #1 position of the Thunderbolt hunting group. What a good method. I wonder if he will personally go on stage today to let us open our eyes?" Yunchujo continued to smile as she said, "Let's see. If your 2 regiments are too weak, I reckon there's no need for me to go on stage." Regimental Commander Sima and Regimental Commander Luo both snorted coldly. What a big tone. However, after the Origin Energy competition started, the expressions of the two people changed. Although the name of that 2ZG from the Thunderbolt hunting regiment was a little strange, his Origin Energy was too strong. Not to mention defeating him, no one could last more than 15 minutes under his hands. Yunchujo ate melon seeds and drank tea. She felt that this 2ZG was really not bad. She reckoned that in the future, he would be able to slaughter everyone in the Ping domain. Regimental Commander Sima probed, "Regimental Commander Zhen, this TUZG of yours is not bad. I wonder where you recruited him from?" Yunchujo faintly said, "He came to our door by himself and cried miserably. He insisted on me taking him in as my subordinate. I saw him crying pitifully, so I could only reluctantly accept him." Regimental Commander Sima was so angry that he was twitching. He believed that there was something wrong with her. However, when he thought of the Spirit Soul competition later on, his face became a little proud. His Spirit Soul was a spirit ape, and the spirit ape's flexibility and intelligence were relatively high among the beast spirits. The first place in this Spirit Soul competition was none other than their lightning hunting squad. Regiment Commander Luo saw the flash of pride on Regiment Commander Sima's face and curled his lips. Last year, it was that spirit ape of Regiment Commander Sima's that helped the Blizzard hunting squad obtain first place, but this year, it might not be so. He was injured last year, so he did not participate in the competition. His spirit soul was a spirit vine, and if it was a competition of agility, the spirit vine would be even better than the spirit ape. Commander Luo calculated that the 3 groups might very well end in a draw. If it was a draw, then it would be a good idea for one family to occupy the hunting rights of the Black Fog Forest for 4 months. However, he had to think of a way to make Jin Meili make a fool of herself, so as to prevent the Thunder hunting group from being too ostentatious. Commander Luo and Commander Sima exchanged glances. Although the two of them were also sworn enemies, they had the same goal at the moment. Therefore, the two of them chimed in, "Commander Zhen, I heard that your spirit is very special. Why don't you go up and let us have a look?" "That's right, Commander Zhen. Since both of us are participating, it's not good to lack you. Go up and show yourself so that everyone can get to know you." Yunchujo naturally knew what the two of them were up to. However, she didn't have any other advantages except that she was thick-skinned. She would go up if she wanted to. Hence, she chuckled. "All right, then I'll go up and have some fun." Sha Wuhan and the others, who were sitting behind Yunchujo, twitched their eyes. "Little Joe, is your appearance today really that good? Also, is that big brick of yours going up to win the last place?" Chapter 4370 was a little too long. Very quickly, the spirit soul competition began. Before that was the preliminaries. Of course, with Yun Shujia's status, she naturally did not need to participate in the preliminaries. She just needed to directly participate in the finals. Finally, the finals had arrived. The host was a member of the Blizzard hunting group. After receiving the order from Commander Sima, when it was time to introduce the contestants, he deliberately raised his voice. Now, let's welcome the Thunder Hunting Squad's Commander Zhen Mei Zhen. Commander Zhen is just like her name, calling herself the Thunder Blossom. Her spirit soul is something that is rarely seen in 1,000 years. Everyone, today is your lucky day. Sha Wuhan and the others had ugly expressions on their faces. This host was obviously sarcastic, mocking Little Nine. The Thunder Hunting Squad's hunters were also a little uncomfortable. Their Little Nine's commander was good in every way, except he looked a little miserable. Moreover, her spirit soul was really not suitable to participate in the spirit soul competition. Wasn't she making herself uncomfortable? If she were to lose face, the Thunderbolt hunting group would also be unable to raise their heads. Yun Shujiu didn't look uncomfortable at all. She gracefully jumped onto the competition stage. The Blizzard hunting group and the Lightning hunting group below immediately burst into laughter. They were only laughing at Yun Shujia's ugly appearance. She actually called her Zhen Mei Li, and even called her Thunderbolt Flower. It was really hilarious. Some people even claimed that there was no one left in the Lightning hunting squad. The Lightning hunting squad was all trash, so they chose an ugly woman as their leader. Yun Shujiu had a faint smile on her lips until the discussion became quieter. Only then did she say, "Do you guys think it's funny that I'm called Zhen Mei Li because I'm so ugly? Do you guys think that I don't deserve to be called Lightning Flower?" Everyone burst into laughter again, thinking that Zhen Mei Li knew her own limits. Yun Shujiu waited until her laughter became softer. Only then did she continue, "Actually, I also wanted to change my name. For example, I wanted to be called Zhen Ugly, or Zhen Cho. But even if I really called these names, wouldn't you all laugh? You would definitely say, "Io, this person's name and appearance match well, right and wrong?" This time, everyone didn't laugh, but they all curled their lips, feeling that Yun Shujiu was talking nonsense. First of all, this appearance is natural. I can't help it. This name is just a code name. You guys don't mind if it's Cola. As for the Thunderbolt Flower, I feel that I can still be considered worthy of my name. That's because I'm the only woman in our Thunderbolt hunting team. No matter how beautiful they are, they can only be called Thunderbolt, Yun Shujiu said with a faint smile. Everyone laughed again. However, this time, they didn't laugh at her. Instead, they felt that what Yun Shujiu said was interesting. Yun Shujiu pointed at her clothes again. "Oh right, you must also feel that since I'm so ugly, I shouldn't wear such bright clothes. However, I can't help it. Since I can't be the number one beauty, it's not bad to be the number one ugly woman." The crowd burst into laughter again. This Zhen Mei Li was quite interesting. They had never seen someone so blatantly belittling them. This time, Yun Shujiu paused for a long time. When the crowd had completely quieted down, she continued, "You all mocked my looks, my name, and my clothes. There's nothing wrong with them. I'm happy to be a laughing stock for everyone." Speaking up to this point, Yun Shujia's tone suddenly became fierce. "However, if you say that the members of the Thunderbolt hunting group are all trash and that they are blind to choose me as their leader, then you are all courting death." Chapter 4371, The Big Brick for the competition. The crowd did not expect that Yun Shujiu, who had been self-deprecating, would suddenly change her attitude. For a moment, they were a little confused, and the scene was dead silent. "You must think that I'm bluffing you, and that I'm scaring you. If anyone dares to slander my subordinates and my brothers in front of me in the future, I'll kill them," Yun Shujiu said. Her eagle-like gaze looked at the crowd below. No one knew whether it was because they were intimidated by Yunchujia's killing intent or because they didn't react in time. In short, no one made a sound. The scene was still deathly silent. At this moment, Yunchujio laughed lightly. "Host, don't tell me you want me to continue hosting for you?" Only then did the host react. However, after being swept by Yunchujia's cold and ruthless gaze, her legs couldn't help but go weak. She stammered, below is the Blizzard Hunting Group's division commander's spirit is a soul ape." The host was intimidated by Yunchujia's momentum, the original impassioned introduction stammering, "Almost to death Sima Regiment Commander." Originally wanted to let that Jin beautiful lose face, but now it is good, instead move a stone to hit his own feet. The host finally finished introducing the contestants and began to announce the rules of the competition. The rules were very simple. There were several tall fruit trees on the stage that were filled with fruits. What the spirit's soul had to do was to pluck the fruits from the trees and put them into the basket next to it. Whoever plucked the most fruits would win. After the host announced the start of the competition, Commander Sima's spirit ape nimbly climbed onto the fruit tree and began to pluck the fruits. Commander Luo's spirit vine didn't want to be outdone either. It climbed onto the fruit tree and began to pluck the fruits with the vines. The other spirit souls also displayed their abilities. Only Yunchujia's big brick flew around the stage like an idiot, as if it was watching a show. The people below the stage discussed, TSK, I told you, Zhenmei's spirit soul would also lose if she went up. If it was a competition of strength, that thing would probably be okay. This competition of agility and intelligence can't be compared at all. That's right, I've never heard of anyone with a big brick that can pick fruits. That Zhenmei's mouth is really good, but this spirit soul competition will definitely be in last place. Yunchujio watched calmly. She didn't care about the results of the competition at all. If she lost, so be it. She didn't care about any hunting rights anyway. There were plenty of ways to earn money. Moreover, she felt that the big brick had been a little inflated recently. It would be good to let it learn a lesson so that it wouldn't have to show off all day. Therefore, everyone saw that the other contestants were very nervous. They wished they could go up and help their spirit souls pick fruits. Only Zhenmei took out a chair and crossed her legs to watch the show. Everyone thought to themselves, not to mention that the big brick was really similar to Zhenmei. Indeed, the host had the same spirit soul as the host. Half of the time it took for an incense stick to burn quickly passed. The big brick was still proudly watching the show. It didn't have the self-awareness of a contestant at all. Everyone curled their lips. This big brick was most likely a fool, right? Otherwise, it only had shallow intelligence. At this moment, the big brick finally floated back to its own fruit tree. Then, with a bang, it hit the fruit tree, and the fruits on it fell one after another. Then, the big brick began to neatly pick the fruits in the basket. Although the big brick did not have hands, it did not know how it did it. Anyway, the fruits were all put into the basket by it. Chapter 43-72. Just as everyone was stunned, they saw the brick knock down the fruit tree of the soul ape next door and stuff the fruit into its basket. Yunchujio face-bombed. Alright, this point seemed to be up to her. She was used to snatching things. Everyone was dumbfounded. Not only was the brick not stupid, it had become a spirit. It had picked up so many fruits from the soul ape, so the first place would definitely belong to it. The expressions of Regiment Commander Sima and Regiment Commander Luo were very ugly. They had originally wanted to make Yunchujio make a fool of herself, but now they had returned the favor and allowed her to pick up the first place. They wanted to find trouble, but the rules did not say that they were not allowed to knock down trees, nor did they say that they were not allowed to snatch fruits from other people's trees. The final result was not surprising. The big brick obtained first place. The Thunder Hunting Group's hunters had changed from their previous dejection, and immediately felt that being a member of the Thunder Hunting Group was awesome. Yun Shujo looked at the unsightly expression of Commander Sima and Commander Luo and said, "I'm sorry, I originally wanted to come up and join in the fun, but I didn't think that I would accidentally obtain first place. I admit it." The two of them were so angry that they kept snorting. They had really taken advantage of the situation. Without any suspense, the Thunderbolt hunting group obtained the first place in the overall score and obtained the hunting rights of the Black Fog Forest for a year. Yun Shujo brought her men and returned in triumph. She had participated in this competition mainly to test the strength of the other two groups. She discovered that the strength of the two hunting groups was slightly weaker than that of the Thunderbolt hunting group. Hei Shinjo decided to increase the strength of the Thunderbolt hunting group as soon as possible and take down the two hunting groups within a short period of time. Therefore, the Thunderbolt hunting group members found that the food tasted a little strange recently. It was also possible that there was a problem with the ingredients. Otherwise, why would their stomachs always go bad? However, they also found that the speed of their cultivation had suddenly become faster. What was going on? A month later, the Thunderbolt hunting squad began to take over. Due to Yun Shujo, this pervert, and 2ZG, this lethal weapon. The Thunderbolt hunting squad used 2 months to take over the Blizzard hunting squad and the Lightning hunting squad. Because she had absolute authority, Yun Shujo began to reorganize the base region. If there were no laws, then they would establish laws. If there were no law enforcement squads, then they would establish law enforcement squads. After some drastic measures, the base domain gradually developed in a stable direction. From 2ZG's point of view, other than having a thin yuan qi and everyone's yuan qi levels being low, the base domain was even more orderly than the flat domain. It was on par with the imperial domain. In the beginning, he had been forced to follow Yun Shujo because he was helpless. But now, he had a sense of agreement with Yun Shujo. This little girl not only had a perverse physique, but her brain was not something an ordinary person could compare to. Yun Shujo was somewhat worried. Although she was a person of her word in the base domain, how could she gain a foothold in the flat domain? After thinking about it, she decided to bring a few people to explore the flat domain. After gaining a foothold, she would think of a way to bring all the elites of the Thunderbolt Hunter Regiment into the flat domain, and then dominate the flat domain. Then the question came, who should she bring? Yun Shujo gathered a few of her trusted aides together for a discussion. The short fatty grinned and said, "Little Joe, it's quite good to stay in the scum domain. Don't get carried away. Although you're considered an expert in the scum domain, you're just a small piece of trash in the even domain." The third brother also echoed, "Second brother's words make sense. Little Joe, you'd better not take the risk." Sha Wuhan was silent for a long while before saying, "Little Joe, in the long run, it's not a bad thing for you to go to the even domain, but the risk is too great. You have to consider it carefully." Chapter 4373 summons the second spirit. Yun Shujo waited for everyone to finish speaking before she spoke. If a person doesn't have any worries, there will definitely be immediate worries. Although we seem to be in a glorious situation now, if the people of the Ping domain or the Imperial domain cause trouble, we will definitely suffer a disaster. Therefore, I will definitely go to the Ping domain. However, I cannot go alone. It is difficult for a lone tree to support itself. I plan to bring a few people over. Which one of you wants to go with me? The short fatty immediately shrank back. He did not know why, but he felt that the person Yun Shujo wanted to take away was him. He did not want to go. How good would it be to have food and drink in the lowly domain? He would not go to the even domain to suffer. Just as the short fatty was thinking, he heard Yun Shujo say, "Big brother wants to stay behind to oversee things. Naturally, he cannot go. Third brother's elemental energy level is a little low. Moreover, he cannot go even if he wants to stay behind to assist big brother. Thus, second brother, you and big brother too can go with me." The short fatty was simply about to cry. If he had known this would happen, he wouldn't have cultivated with all his might. After he returned, he obtained the jade slip that Yun Shujiu gave him. He didn't know if it was because he had experienced life and death in the cave of 1,000 ghosts previously, but his cultivation speed was extremely fast. Now, he had already reached the 5th level of Yuanhua realm. The short fatty knew that the matter that Yun Shujiu had decided on couldn't be changed by others, so he could only sob as he returned to pack his luggage. Yun Shujiu couldn't help but laugh. The reason why she brought the short and fat man with her was that although he was lazy, his aptitude was better than Xiao Yuan's, so his cultivation speed would definitely not be slow when he went to the even zone. Moreover, if it was just her and 2 Ziji, they wouldn't have enough manpower. If something happened, there wouldn't even be a messenger. When Dog 2 heard that Yun Shujiu was going to the even zone, its dog eyes flashed. It had been in a bad mood recently. It used to like those drifters, and both parties were having a good time. However, the big brick had been too cocky recently. It was too hateful. Yun Shujiu used to hate those drifters, but now the drifters had turned into big bricks. They even stole the limelight in the 3-group competition, taking away its position as the #1 spirit pet. What made it most depressed was that it couldn't beat those drifters before, and it still couldn't beat big bricks now. It felt that this ancient fierce beast of its was just a useless snack. Big Bricks, on the other hand, was proud. It felt that the sky was blue and the clouds were white. Its life was too beautiful. When Buttface thought of how Big Bricks looked like, it was so angry. It decided to give them more trouble. Therefore, after returning to the wooden house, Buttface said to Yun Shujiu, "Little fairy, you are going to the Ping domain now. You need more life-saving methods. You are now at the 5th level of Yuanhua realm. You can summon a 2nd spirit soul now. Do you want to try?" Yun Shujiu felt that she had nothing to do, so she decided to give it a try. Originally, Yun Shujiu had planned to quietly give it a try. Who would have thought that the short and fat man would come over to ask about the time of departure the next day? She immediately shouted that she wanted to give it a try. Yun Shujiu could only let him get the incense table and other items, and then she was dragged to kneel again. The short and fat man bit his finger and muttered something, but after a long while, he didn't summon anything. He was quite big-hearted, and said with a grin, "Forget it, they'll try it again in a few days. Anyway, this soul bear of mine is not bad. Little Jiu, you try it out." Yun Shujiu nodded. She felt that it would be difficult for her to summon a 2nd spirit soul. After all, the 1st spirit soul was not justified. Yun Shujiu followed the procedure. After kowtowing 3 times and 9 times, she bit her index finger in pain. "With my body, I worship the ghost ancestor. With my blood, I summon the spirit soul. Rise." Chapter 4374, The 2nd Spirit Soul? It didn't exist. Everyone stared at the top of Yun Shujiu's head, and a big brick appeared. The short fatty stretched his neck and shouted, "Little Jiu, why did you summon the big brick again? Summon the 2nd Spirit Soul." Yun Shujiu looked up at the big brick above her head and thought, "Summon my ass. This is probably the only thing I have left in my life." However, she realized that although the brick was still the same brick, its color was a little redder than before. The big brick trembled in the air and deliberately flew in front of Buttface to bump into it. Buttface was so angry. He thought that he could add some trouble to the big brick, but he didn't expect that he could summon these damn drifters. She was so angry. This fellow could not wait for Yun Shujiu to quickly get the blazing red glazed tile and return to the Nameless Sword sect. He had enough time in this broken ghost realm. As Yun Shujiu was mentally prepared, she was not too disappointed. She exchanged a few words with the group and returned to her room to rest. The next morning, the 3 of them left the Qian mountain range and went to the border of the Ping domain to apply for a commoner. He Xingjiu gave the person who applied 100,000 low-grade yuan coins. The application, which was supposed to take 3 days, was approved in the time it took for a meal. Therefore, the three of them took the newly obtained identity documents and entered the Ping domain. Although Yun Shujiu had been cultivating at the border of the Qiyun mountain range, she still sighed inwardly after entering the hinterland of the Ping domain. No wonder many people wanted to enter the Ping domain. The Yuan Qi here was indeed much denser than in the base domain. When the short fatty saw that the Yuan Qi in the Ping domain was so dense, he immediately threw the little grievance to the back of his mind. He felt that it was quite good to come to the Ping domain. After all, he still had the ghost talisman in his hands. What was there to be afraid of? The three of them entered a town. The pedestrians on the street looked at the three of them with some disdain. The reason was very simple. The three of them basically had the lowest level of Yuan power. Yun Shujiu and the short fatty were both at the 5th level of the origin transformation realm. 2ZG had a ring that concealed his origin energy, so his current level of origin energy seemed to be only at the 5th level of the origin transformation realm. The short fatty did not have the time to pay attention to these things. Even if they were in a small town, it was still much more prosperous than the cities in the base region. The short fatty's small eyes instantly lit up. The flat region was still the best. Yun Shujiu had seen a city that was several times more prosperous than this one, so she did not have much of a reaction. 2ZG, on the other hand, was from the imperial region, so he was also indifferent. However, a notice that was pasted on the wall attracted Yun Shujiu's attention. The general content of the notice was that Princess Mei Yan was going to marry her husband in 3 months. The Divine Dragon hunting group in the flat region had recruited 500 hunters to go to the Ghost Abyss to collect the rippling flower for the wedding. All the hunters who successfully collected the rippling flowers would not only receive a generous reward, but they would also be accepted by the Divine Dragon hunting group as an exception. Yun Shujiu watched as she listened to the discussions of the crowd, and she had a rough understanding of the situation. The rippling flowers were not only gorgeous in color, but it also implied that the couple was harmonious, with hundreds of children and thousands of grandchildren. It was just that the environment was too harsh, and there were also powerful guardian origin beasts, so it was difficult to find a flower. In order to curry favor with Princess Mei Yan, the Dragon God hunting group's Captain Murong recruited hunters to go to the Ghost Abyss to pick the rippling flower. In any case, the people recruited were all willing to go, so they couldn't blame others even if they died. Little 9, what's there to see? Don't tell me you want to go to the Ghost Abyss to collect the rippling flower. What's the difference between that and throwing your life away? Anyway, go whoever you want to go, I definitely won't go. The short fatty said snappily. He had a bad premonition in his heart. Every time Little 9 tricked him, he would have this feeling. Oh God, I hope Little 9 doesn't go crazy. Chapter 4375 Princess Mei Yan's prince consort Yun Shujiu looked at the short and fat man with a faint smile. The short and fat man's heart immediately sank. It was over. He had fallen ill again. The three of them left the crowd and found an inn to temporarily settle down. Second brother, big brother too, let's set off to Yen City tomorrow morning to register. Let's go to Ghost Abyss for a stroll. Yun Shujiu said with a smile. The short fatty was about to cry. Little Jiu, you said to come to the level domain. Fine, well come. But, can we not go to Ghost Abyss to die? If you want to join the Divine Dragon hunting group, can we think of another way? Yun Shujiu said with a light smile, another way? Can other ways be as fast as this? According to our elemental energy level, wanting to enter the Divine Dragon hunting group in a short period of time is simply a pipe dream. Furthermore, can other methods obtain a large number of helpers? Second brother, although cherishing life is a good thing, the path of cultivation is to fight with the heavens. If you have to fight, you still have to fight. Moreover, big brother 2 and I are here, what are you afraid of? The short fatty was embarrassed by what was said and stammered, I'm just saying, right? I didn't say that I won't go. It's just that Little Jiu, second brother, why can't you understand what you mean? It's easy to understand that you have the opportunity to join the Divine Dragon Hunting Group during this recruitment. What do you mean by the helper you mentioned later? Yun Shujo smiled slyly. There are only two kinds of people who are recruited to go to the abyss to collect ripple flowers. One kind of people wants to join the Divine Dragon Hunting Group urgently, and the other kind of people are forced by life to go for rich rewards. These two types of people have weaknesses that they can control, and their elemental energy shouldn't be too bad. We can take advantage of the opportunity to go to the abyss to subdue them. After joining the Divine Dragon Hunting Group, they will be a great help. The short fatty and 2ZG were dumbstruck when they heard this. Little Jio's brain wasn't a human's, so why didn't they think of this? After a while, the short fatty said weakly, "Little Jio, although what you said makes sense, with just the three of us punks, let alone subdue those people, it's hard to say if we can even keep our little lives." Yun Shujo smiled but didn't say anything. The short and fat man didn't know about her abnormal physique or Tuzg's true strength, so it was normal for him to be worried. However, she didn't intend to tell him the truth, because his performance was just used to confuse others. Yun Shujo ignored the short and fat man and asked 2ZG curiously, "Big brother 2, do you know who Princess Mei Yan's consort is?" Princess Mei Yan's son-in-law has a special identity. He is the crown prince of the Yen clan. His marriage to Princess Mei Yan is also a marriage alliance between the two clans. I think the Yen clan and the Ghost clan will communicate more frequently in the future. The crown prince of the Yen clan? Yun Shujo was stunned. What is the name of the crown prince of the Yen clan? I think his name is Aog. I think it's this name. I don't know the details. I heard it from others. 2ZG said uncertainly. Yun Shujo was stunned. Aog? He actually came to the Ghost clan? And he married the Ghost clan's Princess Mei Yan? He really didn't stop. What kind of bad idea was this? However, she thought about it. She had already transformed into Zhen Meili's honorable appearance. Aog probably couldn't recognize her. If there was a chance, he would investigate it carefully. For now, it was more important to settle the flat area. The three of them had already made their decision. The next morning, they left the inn and headed to Yen City, where the Divine Dragon Hunting Group was located, to register. Yen City was one of the largest cities in Hirano region. It was very prosperous. When the three of them arrived at the registration location, they couldn't help but feel a little dumbfounded. Chapter 4376. You won't have any friends like this. The registration area was filled with people. If it wasn't for the fact that there were a few registration points, the line at the end of the line would probably stretch all the way out of the city. Yun Shujo was stunned at first, then she understood. Although the Ghost Abyss was dangerous, the Divine Dragon Hunting Group was facing the recruitment of the entire Pingqing region, so naturally, there would be quite a number of people who came to register. Then the problem came. So many people had signed up, and the three of them were weak chickens. What if they couldn't be chosen? Yun Shujo couldn't help but frown. Recently, things had been going smoothly, and she had taken it for granted. The short fatty was very happy. It would be good if they couldn't be chosen. Although little Gio said everything, Ghost Abyss was so dangerous, so it was better not to go. The three of them queued for almost 2 hours, and finally, it was their turn. The hunter in charge of the registration looked at the three of them with disdain when he saw their elemental energy levels, but he still let the three of them fill in the registration form. He curled his lips and said, "Remember to go to the Zhuori forest outside the city to participate in the selection 3 days later, but I reckon that you guys will have gone there for nothing." Yun Shijia's gaze flickered slightly. Gone for nothing? She was definitely going to Gue Yuan. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Soon, it was the day of the selection. When the three of them arrived at the Zhuori forest, many people had already gathered to participate in the selection. Yun Shujo estimated that there were at least 5,000 people. When it was time, the person in charge of the assessment came out and explained the selection rules. The rules were very simple and crude. Everyone entered the Juari forest to hunt level 19 origin beasts. The top 500 who used the shortest time would be accepted, while the rest would be eliminated. After that person announced the start of the competition, everyone scrambled to enter the cleansing sun forest. The short fatty said with some schadenfreude, "Little Joe, I told you we wouldn't be able to make it, right? A level 19 origin beast is equivalent to a first level Yuanzuan realm. We are all small dregs at the 5th level of Yuanhua realm. Even if the 3 of us work together, we wouldn't be able to kill one, so let's not go in." Yun Shujiu ignored him and quickly rushed into the Juari forest with 2 Ziji. When the short fatty saw this, he could only follow. He thought to himself, little Jiu really didn't shed tears until she saw the coffin. That was a level 19 origin beast. When some of the other participants saw the 3 of them, their faces were filled with disdain. Most of them were around the 9th level of Yuanhua realm, and the weakest was at the 8th level of Yuanhua realm. Were these 3 dregs at the 5th level of Yuanhua realm here to be funny? However, now that time was precious, no one wasted their time mocking and ridiculing Yun Shujiu and the other 2. Juari forest was very big. Even though more than 5,000 people had swarmed in, when they reached the depths of the forest, they still scattered. Yun Shujiu and the other 2 were quite lucky. Very soon, they encountered a level 19 earth-shattering ghost tiger. The first reaction of the short fatty was to run quickly. However, while he was in a daze, Yun Shujiu had already rushed forward with a huge brick. The short fatty wanted to cry but had no tears. "Little Jiu, that was a level 19 origin beast. Are you crazy or stupid? That earth-shattering ghost tiger could kill you with a single claw." The earth-shattering ghost tiger looked at He Xinjiu, who was carrying a huge brick, and was also a little confused. What the hell was that ugly freak holding in his hand? Large brick? A 5th level origin realm trash still dared to dream of provoking it? It was really courting death. The earth-shattering ghost tiger revealed a thick look of disdain. Just as it was about to raise its claws to slap that ugly monster that overestimated itself away, it saw that ugly monster suddenly stop in its tracks and turn around to run. It even shouted, "Big brother 2, I'll leave it to you. 2 ZG, do you know that you won't have any friends like this?" Chapter 4377 succeeded in one small step. 2 ZG had no choice but to make his move. His elemental energy level was more than enough to deal with a level 19 origin beast. In the blink of an eye, that earth-shattering ghost tiger was killed. The short fatty was dumbstruck. Wasn't this 2 ZG at the 5th level of the origin transformation realm just like him? Why did he look so awesome? With 2 ZG as their killer weapon, the 3 of them had already killed 3 level 19 origin beasts in less than an hour. However, in order to not attract too much attention, they did not leave immediately. Instead, they estimated that they would be ranked in the middle. Only then did they leave the sun-bathing forest. When the person in charge of the assessment saw that the 3 of them had actually come out so quickly, he looked at the 3 of them with astonishment. However, he did not say anything. The people who participated in the selection came out one after another. Most of them had cooperated to complete the kill. After all, one person really could not kill a level 19 origin beast on his own. After the 500 people were selected, the person in charge of the assessment directly brought them to the headquarters of the Divine Dragon Hunting Group. An old man kissed them, saying nothing more than encouraging words. Then, he gave each of them a set of equipment, which contained a set of winter clothing and a few bottles of pills. Everyone felt that the Divine Dragon Hunting Group was indeed one of the 2 big hunting groups in the flat field. They were indeed generous. In the end, the old man also led the team to Ghost Abyss, and he even brought dozens of hunters. Yun Shujiu secretly sized up the old man called Elder Zhou and then glanced at the dozens of hunters. For some reason, she felt that this posture was somewhat similar to going to the cave of 1,000 ghosts. However, she felt that she might have thought too much. The rippling flower really existed, and it was indeed only found in the ghost abyss. Princess Mei Yen was indeed going to get married, so there should be no problem. The divine dragon hunting group also prepared horses for everyone, and they set off for the ghost abyss in an imposing manner. On the way, Yun Shujo and the other two were often ridiculed by others. It was just that the three of them were there to make up the numbers. They were selected because of dog shit and luck. The short fatty and 2ZG were somewhat uncomfortable. Hey, Shinjo said with a smile, you are right. We were the ones who picked up the 3 origin beasts. We were just lucky. Don't you think it's infuriating? Those people did not expect Yun Shujo to be so thick-skinned. Someone sneered and said, infuriating? When you reach the ghost abyss, you will become dead. You are simply overestimating yourselves. That's right. You 3 good-for-nothings are simply courting death by going to the ghost abyss. Not to mention other things, just the cold energy in the ghost abyss can freeze you half to death. The cold energy is still manageable. The ripple flower's guardian origin beast, the armored ghost crocodile, is the most ferocious. They are just going to die. The short and fat man was so angry that he was puffing up. When night fell, he muttered, Little Joe, you are still talking about subduing those people. They don't even look at us. How are you going to subdue them? Second brother, no matter what, we are now the focal point of these people. This can be considered a small step of success. Yun Shujo said with a smile. The short and fat man was so angry that he rolled his eyes. He was being chased and scolded as trash, and he even succeeded in a small step. It should be a small step closer to death. Yun Shujo was teasing the short and fat man while pondering. She had privately asked 2ZG if that elder Zoe of hers was a member of the royal hunting group. 2ZG was not sure. After all, he was just a small piece of trash in the royal hunting group. She did not know many people. Chapter 4378, Rippling Flower. Yun Shujo also paid attention to Elder Zoe and the hunters of the divine dragon hunting group along the way. She didn't find anything wrong, but she was still a little suspicious. If the divine dragon hunting group didn't want to lose anything by picking the rippling flower, then they shouldn't have sent dozens of hunters. Wasn't this an unnecessary move? This fellow thought about it again. Even if it was a conspiracy, it was still good. In any case, not letting the enemy's conspiracy succeed was considered a victory. On this day, everyone finally reached the top of the ghost abyss. Just standing above the ghost abyss, they could feel the cold air coming from below. Everyone hurriedly changed into the warm clothes that the divine dragon hunting squad had prepared for them. Elder Zoe had someone hang down the rope, and everyone climbed along the rope to the bottom of the abyss. It was still fine if 2ZG's origin energy was superb, but Yun Shujo, this pervert, could even transform into ice, so she naturally didn't feel any discomfort. Only the short and fat man shivered from the cold. Even though he was wearing special clothes to keep out the cold, he still felt very cold. When he saw that Yun Shujo and 2ZG's expressions were normal, he couldn't help but curse in his heart. It was really strange. They were both at the 5th level of Yuanhua realm, why weren't they cold? After everyone had descended into the abyss, Elder Zoe sent a few people to stay on top and also climb down along the rope. Under the lead of those hunters, everyone advanced into the depths of the abyss. The deeper they went, the stronger the wind became, and the colder the air became. The short and fat man was so cold that he almost turned into a sieve. Yun Shujo threw him a few overcoats. This guy wrapped himself up like a ball, which made him feel better. The short and fat man's comical appearance naturally provoked many people's ridicule. It was nothing more than asking for trouble and overestimating himself. The short and fat man was also numb now. He said whatever he wanted to say as long as he kept his life. In order to not arouse the suspicion of others, Yun Shujo and 2ZG also put on cloaks. On the way, they encountered some origin beasts. Because they had the advantage in numbers, they did not encounter any obstacles. However, Yun Shujo and the other two did not make a move, which made everyone dislike them more and more. They felt that these three were just making up the numbers. After walking for a day and a night, Yun Shujo finally saw the legendary ripple flower. The ripple flower was in the middle of the swamp, but it was incomparably beautiful. Moreover, it was a twin flower, and it was indeed suitable for a wedding. However, in the swamp where the ripple flower was located, huge iron-armored ghost crocodiles could be seen from time to time. Although the iron-armored ghost crocodiles were only level 20 origin beasts, in the swamp, they were the kings. Wanting to pick the ripple flower under their noses was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Since it was night when they arrived, Elder Zhou did not let them move. Instead, he camped at the edge of the swamp and waited until the next day before moving. The short and fat man shivered as he moved closer to Yun Shujo. "Little Joe, don't be stupid and rush forward tomorrow. That iron-armored ghost crocodile is really too scary." Yun Shujo nodded and consoled him kindly. "Second brother, don't worry. I will definitely follow behind you. If you want to rush forward, you will be the one rushing ahead." The short fatty, 2ZG, watched the two bickering with envy. Although Yun Shujo called him Big Brother 2 now, he knew that it was completely different from how she called the short fatty second brother. Soon, apart from a few people who were in charge of keeping watch, the rest fell asleep. Yun Shujo could not fall asleep. It was not that she was not sleepy, but Go Weiba kept screaming in her spiritual sense. It wanted to eat flowers, it wanted to eat flowers. Chapter 4379. The wonderful use of the big brick. Yun Shujo would only grant Go Weiba a wish if she was crazy. Not to mention the iron-armored ghost crocodiles in the swamp, the hunters of the divine dragon hunting group alone would not allow her to destroy the flowers. Yes, nibbling on the flowers. Yun Shujo finally suppressed Go Weiba clamoring and fell asleep in a daze. The next morning, after everyone had a simple breakfast, Elder Zhou began to assign tasks. 500 people were divided into 10 groups. 5 groups were responsible for attracting the attention of the armored ghost crocodile, while the other 5 groups were responsible for picking the rippling flowers. Yun Shujo and the other 2 were assigned to the second group. Therefore, the short fatty and 2ZG looked at Yun Shujo with a dumbfounded expression as she swallowed her saliva and picked the rippling flowers. They had no idea how miserable He Xingjiu was. Although the Guai Chao could no longer control her body, its gluttonous emotions could still affect her. If it were not for He Xingjia's strong will, she would have already eaten the flower. Although the 5 groups of people who were in charge of picking the flower were less risky than the other people who were in charge of attracting the armored ghost crocodiles, there were also some hidden armored ghost crocodiles under the swamp. Therefore, danger lurked everywhere. The iron-armored ghost crocodiles did not need to attack them directly. They only needed to bite the specially made sampan under their feet to break it, and their lives would be in danger. After all, if they were to fall into the swamp, it would be the iron-armored ghost crocodile's world. What she was afraid of came true. He Xingjiu was swallowing her saliva. Her feet trembled, and her heart suddenly sank. This was not good. The short and fat man looked down and saw that the sampan where the 3 people were was already cracked. The guy cried out, "It's over, I'm going to die." 2ZG's brows were tightly knitted. He could have carried the short fatty and Yun Shujo and directly jumped onto the shore. However, this way, his strength would also be exposed. However, if it really couldn't be done, he could only do this. He couldn't just wait for death. At this moment, Yun Shujo had an idea. She released the large brick and directly placed it under the sampan. This way, it was equivalent to adding a layer of protection to the sampan. It was enough to support them to paddle to the shore to exchange for a sampan. When the people on the shore saw Yun Shuji's actions, their faces stiffened. How could a spirit soul be used like this? Yun Shujo and the other 2 paddled to the shore. Just as they were about to change to another sampan to continue picking the rippling flowers, Elder Zoe said, "Summon your spirit soul again. Let me take a look." Chapter 43-80 Inheritance Prison. As soon as Elder Zoe's words fell, everyone immediately burst into a clamor. Inheritance Prison? Heavens, we actually have the fortune to enter the Inheritance Prison? Isn't that an existence that only exists in legends? Am I dreaming? Yeah, I've also heard people say that there are many people who suddenly appeared out of nowhere because they obtained inheritances or treasures in the Inheritance Prison. We actually have the fortune to go there. This is simply too great. The Divine Dragon Hunting Group really lives up to its reputation. They actually know about such a secret place. Moreover, they even let us borrow some of their strength. This is really too grateful. That's right. The Divine Dragon Hunting Group is one of the two great hunting groups of our Pingqing region. Naturally, they are generous in their actions. I think they are much stronger than the Heavenly Phoenix Hunting Group. Yun Shujiao sneered in her heart. A bunch of idiots. If it was really that good, why would it be your turn? The short fatty beside her also had a pale face. Because this fellow recalled the incident at the Cave of 1,000 Ghosts, he immediately felt his scalp go numb. Of course, some of the people who were recruited also felt that something was not right. However, they could not leave even if they wanted to. Not to mention Elder Zoe and the people from the Divine Dragon Hunting Squad did not allow them to leave. The main reason was that they couldn't leave even if they wanted to without the rope hanging from it. Elder Zoe swept a glance at everyone. He said with a smile, "There are countless inheritances and treasures in the Inheritance Prison. It's up to fate to enter. What you get is yours. In any case, we will all be brothers in the hunting group in the future. It will be beneficial to the entire hunting group if you increase your strength." Elder Zoe's words made some people let down their guard. It made sense. They would also be members of the Divine Dragon Hunting Group in the future, so it was normal for them to get some benefits. Yun Shujiao felt that this Elder Zoe was obviously better at bewitching people than the previous Elder Tan. However, she did not know what his purpose was. Could it be another blood sacrifice? However, this fellow felt that this was an opportunity. She was worried that she had no way to win the hearts of the people. If these people were trapped by Elder Zoe, she would think of a way to save these people. Then, it would be a matter of time. The further they went in, the colder the temperature became. Fortunately, there were some dry plants on the ground. After walking for a while, they lit a bonfire to keep warm. Then, they continued to walk forward. Just like that, they walked and stopped. Finally, they reached the end of the abyss. A pitch-black stone wall blocked their way. However, when they saw the densely packed vampire bats on the stone wall, they could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Normally, bats were nocturnal. However, these vampire bats were obviously not one of them. Even though it was broad daylight, the vampire bats were also staring at everyone with their scarlet eyes. Perhaps they were still assessing everyone's strength, so they did not attack rashly. However, it was very obvious that they would definitely attack soon. Yun Shujiao thought that these vampire bats were probably guarding the Inheritance Prison behind the stone wall. It was obvious that these things were not easy to deal with. She whispered to the trembling short fatty beside her, "If there is a fight later, you should hide under the cloak. Do you understand?" The short fatty's eyes instantly lit up. He had a total of 8 cloaks on him. Even if the vampire bats had sharp mouths, it would be very difficult to pierce through them. Little Jiao was still the smart one. The short fatty could still be considered to have a conscience, so he asked, "Little Jiao, then what do you do?" The corner of Yun Shujia's mouth revealed a faint smile. "I play with them. I like these cute little things the most." The short fatty, it was over. Little Jiao's madness was acting up again. Chapter 4381, The Effect of the Ripple Flower. At this moment, those vampire bats suddenly attacked and rushed towards everyone. Their sharp long teeth flickered with a faint blue light. It was obvious that there was poison on them. Boss Zoe shouted, "Everyone, spread out. These vampire bats are poisonous. Everyone, try your best to attack with your spirit souls. Don't be bitten by them." When everyone heard that, they quickly spread out. Yun Shujo and the other two were naturally together. Moreover, the angle that Yun Shujo chose just happened to avoid the sight of Boss Zoe. When the short and fat man thought of Yun Shujo's previous warning, he directly hid under the cloak like a ball. When 2ZG saw it, he could not help but twitch the corner of his mouth. He really did not understand why Yun Shujo had to bring this short and fat man who was afraid of death. Was it just for fun? However, he did not have time to think too much, because two vampire bats had already charged towards him and Yun Shujo. It was probably because of the ban on flying, so those vampire bats did not fly high. They were only about 10 feet above the ground, and their attack method was the poisonous fangs on their mouths. 2ZG's spirit soul was a soul eagle, so it was suitable to deal with these vampire bats. The huge wings of the soul eagle were just enough to block the vampire bats that swooped down. In addition to 2ZG's superb elemental energy, it would not be a problem to deal with even 5 vampire bats, let alone one. On the other side, Hei Shinjo released a large brick, and a vampire bat bit at the large brick. Crack! The vampire bat's sharp teeth were broken. Before it could react, the large brick flashed with red light, and with a clang, it smashed the vampire bat onto the ground. Yun Shujo killed the vampire bat with her sword. The big brick trembled. Yun Shujo pursed her lips. No wonder Buttface had been complaining to her recently. The big brick was getting more and more arrogant. However, this guy felt that the big brick looked familiar. Who did it look like? Buttface, who was in the Origin Beast bag, thought to himself, who does it look like? Isn't it just like you? He also wanted to show off, but unfortunately, he was bullied by the dogs. Damn big brick. Yun Shujo and 2ZG took their time to kill the vampire bats that were charging at them. The short and fat man was suffocating under the cloak, so he had no choice but to come out and fight with a bitter face. Although he was not strong, 2ZG and Yun Shujo helped him a little, so he was not in danger. The battle lasted for 4 hours before the vampire bats dispersed. However, dozens of people were seriously injured or lost their lives. Elder Zoe glanced at those who were seriously injured. A trace of disgust flashed in his eyes, but he said, "We are all brothers. We can't leave anyone behind. Help the seriously injured people and we will enter the inheritance prison together." Elder Zoe's words naturally won the favor of many people. Only a few people were still on guard. Those vampire bats flew to God knows where. In short, there was nothing on the black stone wall. Elder Zoe took out several rippling flowers and crushed them. Then, he ordered someone to smear the juice of the rippling flowers on the stone wall. Yun Shujo stared with her eyes wide open. Oh my, there's such a method? No wonder he went to pick the rippling flowers first. Moreover, he picked so many of them. It was probably just a pretense to offer them to Princess Mei Yen, but the real purpose was to smear the stone wall. He even knew such a subtle method. This Elder Zoe was most likely a member of the royal hunting group. Chapter 4382 Blood-Red Skeleton. After a moment, the rippling flower's blood-red juice had already smeared a large area of the cliff wall. An arched door had appeared on the cliff wall. Old Zoe's eyes lit up, and he immediately signaled for his subordinates to stop. He walked to the front of the door and observed it for a moment before taking out a jade token. After injecting elemental energy into it, creaking sounds came from the stone wall. The stone door opened. Everyone was extremely excited, and joy appeared on Elder Zoe's face. He gave a signal with his eyes, and his subordinates quietly allowed those people who had been recruited to enter first. Yun Shujo curled her lips. As expected, they were sent to scout the way. Just as this fellow was cursing in his heart, several exclamations came from inside. However, these exclamations weren't because of fear, but because of surprise. Yun Shujo walked in and took a look. She was also stunned. From the outside, the arched door did not look very big. However, she did not expect that there was another world inside. It was surprisingly spacious. This was not a big deal. What made everyone exclaim was that there was another door inside. There were 3 large blood-red words on it: Prison of Inheritance. Yun Shujo was stunned. Oh, it was really the Prison of Inheritance? Was it not a trap? But Face, do you know the Prison of Inheritance? Yun Shujo used her spiritual sense to ask Buttface, who was in the Origin Beast bag. Little fairy, I have heard of this before. There are a total of 18 floors in the Prison of Inheritance. Each floor has countless floating skulls. There might be rich rewards inside, or there might be hidden killing intent. It depends on one's luck. However, if you want to enter the next level, you have to choose at least 10 skulls. Moreover, the entrance is only in and not out. The exit is set at the 18th level. Dog 2 finally had a chance to suppress the large brick, so it naturally showed off. When Yun Shujo heard this, she immediately understood why Elder Zou had recruited so many people. If the first level required 10 skulls, then the 18th level would have 180 people. If these people were to choose the skulls, they would die. However, if they obtained good items, they would definitely fall into Elder Zou's hands after they left the inheritance prison. As for the people who were recruited, they would not be able to leave alive. What a good plan. It was estimated that these people who were recruited did not know the rules of the inheritance prison at all, so they were still dreaming of finding treasures. At this moment, the 3 blood-red words Prison of Heritage suddenly turned into a blood-red skeleton and said in a gloomy voice, "Are you willing to enter the Prison of Heritage to receive the heritage?" Elder Zou hurriedly knelt down. The others also knelt down when they saw the situation. Hei Shinjo had no choice but to kneel on the ground unwillingly. The guy could not help but curse in his heart. Ever since he came to the ghost domain, he had learned how to kneel instead of learning anything else. It was so annoying that he had to kneel down whenever he had nothing to do. At this moment, Elder Zou said, "I'm willing to enter the inheritance prison to receive the inheritance." The others quickly repeated the same thing. Hei Shinjo was afraid that she would not be able to enter if she did not say the same thing, so she repeated the same thing. The blood-red skeleton laughed evilly. Yun Shujo could not help but curse in her heart when she saw that it was trembling so much that it was about to fall apart. Was it not afraid that it would fall apart if it laughed? Was it crazy? The blood-red skeleton suddenly stopped laughing and asked in a sinister manner, "Which one of you is scolding me?" Although Yun Shuji's expression was normal, she was shocked in her heart. Could this thing even read minds? Why not try praising it? Hence, this fellow muttered in his heart. What a beautiful skeleton. What a mighty and domineering skeleton. He had never seen such a high-end and high-class skeleton. It was truly a blessing in 3 lifetimes. Thank you for 8 generations of ancestors. Chapter 4383, Skull and Bones. Yun Shujo was chanting in her heart when she saw the blood-red skull start laughing again. It was laughing so hard that it was shaking. Yes, its bones were shaking. After laughing for a long time, the blood-red skull finally said, "Forget it. Since there's someone here who can speak, I won't pursue the matter any further. All of you can go in." Seeing this, Yun Shujo knew that the bloody skeleton was most likely able to read people's minds. She was afraid that the bloody hole would read their minds again. Therefore, she did not want her mind to go blank so as to avoid any unnecessary complications. A blinding red light flashed. When everyone regained their sight, their faces were filled with shock. The place where they were now was like a purgatory. On the walls on both sides, there were countless black ghosts struggling and screaming on the walls above their heads. Not far away from them, there was a boiling pot of oil and a mountain of swords. What surprised them the most was that there were countless red skulls floating in the air. Was this the inheritance hell? This was simply hell. The voice of the red skeleton from before sounded again. Do you see those skulls? You need to get at least 10 skulls before you can enter the next level. Let's start now. When everyone heard the red skeleton's words, they did not quite understand what it meant. What did it mean to get at least 10 skulls? There were so many skulls floating in the air, couldn't they just get 10? Elder Zoe's eyes flashed, and then he said, "Everyone, after entering the treasure mountain, there is naturally no reason to return empty-handed. There is no need to be polite. Let's do it." When everyone heard this, they were immediately eager to give it a try. The short and fat man's small eyes also flashed with light, but unfortunately, he immediately became obedient after being stared at by Yunchuji's cold gaze. Some people couldn't wait to jump up and catch the floating skull. However, when their hands were about to touch the skull, a bone-piercing cold air attacked them and took advantage of the moment when they were in a daze. The skull suddenly escaped. Even so, there was still one person who took the risk of getting frostbite on his arm and caught a skull. That person hugged the skull and laughed loudly. Everyone gathered around and looked enviously at that person. The short and fat man also wanted to move forward. However, he stopped after being glared at by Yunchujo. Elder Zoe smiled and said, "Congratulations to this little brother. Once you inject your essence energy into it, the things inside will naturally be released." That person immediately injected a trace of essence energy excitedly. Light flickered on the skull, and then that person disappeared on the spot. Just as everyone was puzzled, they heard a miserable cry coming from the oil pot in the distance. Everyone looked in the direction of the sound and saw that that person had already been thrown into the oil pot. Within a few breaths, there was already no sound. The short fatty almost sat on the ground. Fortunately, he listened to little Nine. Otherwise, wouldn't he have been thrown into the oil pot as well? It was too terrifying. The other people's faces were also filled with fear. The people who were originally eager to try were suddenly stunned on the spot. Those floating skulls in the air were originally secret manuals and yuan tools in their eyes, but now, they were the Yama who wanted to take their lives. At this moment, the red skeleton laughed strangely and said, "Snatch? Why aren't you snatching anymore? I love to see all of you lively. I'll give you 1 hour. If you can't get 10 skeletons, you'll all become vengeful spirits here." Elder Zoe frowned and said to everyone, "Everyone, wealth comes from danger. There are risks in this skull, but there are also opportunities. This is a once-in-lifetime opportunity. Don't miss it." Chapter 4384. The best voice in the ghost realm. After Elder Zoe finished speaking, no one moved. It was true that wealth came from danger, but no matter how one looked at this inheritance prison, there was only danger and no wealth. Elder Zoe thought of the red skeleton talking for an hour and his face darkened. He said, "Everyone, you heard it too. If no one takes the skull within an hour, we will all die here. We have already taken 1 skull. 9 more people must take the skull. In that case, the 9 of you will do it." Elder Zoe pointed at the 9 people. The 9 people's faces instantly turned pale as they begged for mercy. Elder Zoe naturally did not pay attention to them. Seeing that they still did not move, Elder Zoe gave them a look. Immediately, a few hunters from the Divine Dragon hunting group killed one of them on the spot. The remaining 8 people did not dare to say anything more. If they went to take the skulls, there was still a chance of survival. If they did not take the skulls, they could only be beheaded. Elder Zoe casually pointed at another unlucky person. He gathered 9 people and let them grab the skulls. 10 people took the risk of their arms being frozen and took 9 skulls down. Everyone had learned from the previous experience. This time, they hid far away for fear of being implicated. Elder Zoe asked everyone to scatter and let those people open the skulls in their hands one by one. After the first unlucky person injected elemental energy into the skull, he was blasted into fine powder. The second unlucky person was directly thrown onto the mountain of blades and was instantly pierced into a sieve. The third unlucky person's body instantly turned into blood. Very quickly, it was the last person. The clothes on that person's body had already been soaked in cold sweat. His body was trembling non-stop as he fearfully injected elemental energy into his skull. However, nothing dangerous happened. On the contrary, a low-grade heaven-grade treasure sword appeared in his hand. That person was stunned at first, then laughed loudly. He laughed so hard that tears were flowing out. Clearly, he had received too much stimulation. Elder Zoe's gaze lingered on the sword for a moment, then, he said, "Everyone, did you see that? Although it was dangerous, if one's luck was good enough, the harvest would be quite bountiful. Moreover, there were so many skulls floating in the air. Whether it was a disaster or an opportunity depended on one's luck." Those who had been recruited would not believe Elder Zoe's words no matter how stupid they were. They just did not dare to resist. At this moment, the red skeleton's voice sounded again. "TSK, TSK, I love to see you guys killing each other and scheming against each other. Humans are indeed the most insidious and shameless species." Yun Shujo could not help but curse in her heart. These words sounded as if it was very noble. Pooey, shameless. This fellow also knew that it was probably a bad thing after thinking it through. As expected, the red skeleton said sinisterly, "Who was scolding me just now? Hurry up and hand over the person who scolded me. Otherwise, none of you will be able to leave." Everyone looked at each other. Who knew who was scolding it? And who was so free to scold it for no reason? Was there something wrong with it? Yun Shujo could only repeat the same trick in her heart. The voice of Lord Skeleton was really too pleasant to hear. It was simply the best voice in the ghost realm. To be able to hear its voice, her life had not been in vain. The red skeleton laughed once again, causing everyone's hair to stand on end. Forget it, forget it. I have to say, although there are some of you who are shameless enough to secretly curse at me, there are also some who are very good at talking. I will spare you one more time. If I hear anyone secretly cursing at me again, I will kill all of you. The red skeleton said with a sinister tone, "The number one voice of the ghost realm is me. You actually dare to question me? You are courting death." Everyone was stunned by this unexpected turn of events. This red skeleton was the number one voice in the ghost realm? What did this have to do with anything? Furthermore, how did this ugly freak know that the red skeleton was the number one voice in the ghost realm? Originally, the short fatty was trembling like a quail because he had been chosen. Now that he saw that the person had been taken care of by the red skeleton, he could not help but feel a glimmer of hope. At this moment, the red skeleton said again, "What question do you want to ask? Seeing that you know how to talk, I can consider answering you. May I ask how many levels are there in this inheritance prison?" Yun Shujo asked with a smile. "The 18th level. If you want to go out, you have to take 10 skulls from each level. Only then can you reach the 18th level." The red skeleton did not continue speaking. Obviously, the 18th floor was different from the previous 17 floors. Yun Shujo nodded, she blinked and said, "Lord Skeleton, you are the most high-class person in the world. Don't you like to be lively and lively? How about I let them fight in a group to show you? However, you have to extend the stay time on this floor to 4 hours. Chapter 4386, Free for All. The red skeleton immediately said with great interest, "TSK, TSK, although this woman looks a lot uglier than me, she's very interesting. You're right. Yun Shujo was just about to complain about the red skeleton's shamelessness, but when she remembered that the red skeleton could read minds, she immediately muttered in her heart, Lord Skeleton's skills are unrivaled. Lord Skeleton is unrivaled in the world. The red skeleton had just captured some information when it was attracted by Yun Shujia's last words. It immediately forgot about what it had said earlier. Elder Zhou did not know what Yun Shujio was up to, and he was afraid that the red skeleton would attack, so he did not dare to act rashly. He only stared at Yun Shujio with a malicious gaze. Tu Ziji's entire body tensed up, afraid that Elder Zhou would suddenly attack. Although little Zhou's physique was abnormal, it was best not to reveal it. Even the short and fat man who was previously trembling had changed his appearance. He carried a large knife and stood in front of Yun Shujio. Tu Ziji could not help but have a change of opinion towards the short and fat man. Although this short and fat man was a good-for-nothing and a little timid, he was still able to handle critical moments. At this moment, the three of them had become the focal point of the entire scene. Everyone's inquisitive gazes fell on Yun Shujio. What did she mean by fighting in a group? Yun Shujio coughed twice, then, she said, everyone, you've heard and seen it. There are a total of 18 levels of the inheritance prison here. Each level requires 10 people to be sent to their deaths. If we calculate it to the end, I'm afraid there won't be many people left that we've recruited. As for the remaining people, do you think Elder Zhou and the Divine Dragon Hunting Group will allow you to leave the Ghost Abyss alive even if you leave this inheritance prison? Therefore, if you want to live, you can only turn the tables and kill them. Otherwise, none of us will be able to live. In fact, Yun Shujio did not need to say it. When the red skeleton said that there were 18 levels here, those who were recruited had the intention to resist. People would only resist when they were forced into a dead end. Previously, they still had the thought of being lucky, but now, they had completely lost it. Elder Zhou sneered, nonsense. This old man can guarantee that as long as a person can walk out of the inheritance prison alive, this old man will definitely not hurt him in the slightest. Yun Shujio curled her lips, you talk like you're farting. What's the use of not making promises? If you want to live, then come with me. As Yun Shujio said this, she raised a large brick and rushed towards a hunter. The short fatty and Tu Ziji were speechless. Little Jiao was good at everything, but she was too impulsive. How would they know that Yun Shujio was doing this for the sake of those who had been recruited? If no one took the lead, those people would definitely hesitate, and there would really be no way for them to survive. As expected, when those people saw Yun Shujio charging up first, and when they thought of the people who had died tragically before, they immediately charged towards the people from the Divine Dragon Hunting Group. Elder Zhou saw that things had already come to this point, so there was nothing more to say. It was just a matter of who would win. The person he wanted to die the most right now was naturally Hei Xingzhou. Hence, he rushed towards Yun Shujio. However, before he could reach Yun Shujio, he was stopped by Tu Ziji. Elder Zhou snorted coldly, overestimating yourself. However, after the two of them exchanged blows, Elder Zhou cried out in surprise, You hid Origin Energy? You're also a member of the Imperial Region? Hearing him say this, Tu Ziji knew that he was most likely a member of the Imperial Hunting Squad. He did not waste time with him and intensified his offensive. Elder Zhou said viciously, Even if you are from the Imperial Region, you are still not my match. You are courting death. The moment they exchanged blows, Tu Ziji knew that his elemental energy was not as powerful as Elder Zhou's. He reckoned that Elder Zhou's level in the Royal Hunting Squad was not low. As time passed, Tu Ziji gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. Chapter 4387 Money or Death. On the other side, Yun Shujio relied on her large brick and a belly full of evil water. This fellow worked hard to kill a hunter with the short and fat man in the beginning, and then commanded from behind. Although the people who were recruited were dissatisfied, they didn't have the time to pay attention to her. Moreover, they didn't know what the relationship between Jean Meili and the red skeleton was. What if they offended her and were turned into blood by the red skeleton? Moreover, they found that Yun Chujia's instructions seemed to be good, so they gradually listened to her commands. Seeing that Tu Ziji was about to suffer a loss, this guy immediately swung a big brick and went forward to help. This guy helped Tu Ziji kill Elder Zhou at the price of a bloody hole in his body. Then, he naturally kept Elder Zhou's storage ring. With Elder Zhou's death, the remaining members of the Divine Dragon Hunting Group were much easier to deal with. If it wasn't for Yun Chujia's meddling, those who were recruited would definitely submit to her and not dare to resist. In the end, even if they wanted to resist, since more than half of them were already dead, they wouldn't be a match for Elder Zhou and the others. It could only be said that Elder Zhou and the others met Yun Chuzhou. They were unlucky. Yes, they were unlucky. Yun Chuzhou did not leave any survivors. This place was already very dangerous. It was not safe to leave another dangerous factor around. The short and fat man asked, "Little Zhou, why didn't you leave their dog lives to use to pluck the skulls?" Yun Chuzhou smiled lightly and said, "Do you think that they would listen to orders when they knew that they would definitely die? To take a step back, if they really did pluck the skulls, what would they do if they risked their lives to rush into the crowd?" The short and fat man shrunk his neck. With his IQ, it was better for him to speak less in the future. Some of the people who were recruited were also killed or injured. However, compared to the complete annihilation of the Divine Dragon Hunting Group, it was obviously much better. They looked at each other and did not know what to do next. The red skeleton laughed strangely. "Wonderful. Wonderful. You little girl, you are full of evil tricks. Interesting. However, you still have an hour left. TSK, I am really looking forward to your next performance. Why don't you guys have another fight? The loser will go and pluck the skulls?" When everyone heard the red skeleton's words, they immediately became wary of each other. No one wanted to die, and the chances of obtaining good things from the skulls were too low. It was basically no different from sending themselves to their deaths. Although many people knew that no one would survive in this stalemate, what could they do? At worst, they would all die here together. Just as everyone was feeling a little hopeless, Yun Chuzhou said lightly, "Help me remove 10 skulls. I'll inject elemental energy." Those people simply felt that there was something wrong with their ears. Could this Jean Meili be an idiot? Who would send themselves to their death? Besides, unless she was lucky enough to draw a precious skull, how could she last until the 10th? Yun Chuzhou glanced at the crowd. She said righteously, "I'm the softest and kindest person. Isn't it a glorious thing to sacrifice me and make everyone happy? Come on, hurry up, or we won't have enough time." Although everyone felt that Yun Chuzhou was very abnormal, they could only try their best now. Very quickly, someone with slightly higher elemental energy removed 10 skulls and placed them in front of Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou glanced at them, then, she said, "Let's get this straight. If I draw something good, you guys aren't allowed to have red-eye syndrome. It's all mine." The short fatty was so angry that he wanted to strangle her to death. At this time, she was still a money grubber. You fucking want money but don't want your life. Chapter 4388, Smashing Golden Eggs. The rest of the people also looked at Yun Chuzhou with a stiff expression. Money grubber to such an extent, they had to admit defeat. They had to admit defeat. Before everyone could make their stand, the red skeleton's sinister voice rang out, "Little girl, you really want money but not your life. At first, I thought you were smart, but now I can see that you are an idiot." Although Yun Chuzhou had 100 ways to kill the red skeleton, she still had not figured out its background, so it was better not to offend it. Thus, she smiled and said, "Lord Skeleton, I am an idiot when I compare myself to you. You are not only the best voice in the ghost realm, but also the smartest person in the ghost realm. The red skeleton felt that these words sounded very comfortable. However, no matter how comfortable it was, she would still die, unless the 10 bones were all good things. However, this was impossible because there were only 5 good things in each layer. The rest were all killer moves. Seeing that the red skeleton did not speak, Yun Shujo looked at the crowd. You guys haven't answered me yet. If there are good things in here, will all of them belong to me? Although the crowd did not know what this guy was planning, they still said, of course. No matter what is in there, it will belong to you. Yun Shujo nodded. How about this? I'll be a good person until the end. I'll cover all the layers below. You're not allowed to fight with me. Whoever doesn't keep his word will be an asshole. Everyone, you haven't finished your layer yet, and you want to cover all the layers below? Maybe the first skull will kill you. However, seeing that there was not much time left, the others quickly said, yes, it's all yours. We won't fight with you. Hurry up. It's too late. No rush. There's one more thing. If I can bring you out of the inheritance prison and Ghost Abyss safely, you have to call me Little Ninth Leader in the future and listen to my arrangements. Otherwise, I won't care whether you live or die. Hei Shinjo blinked her eyes and said. Those people only wanted to live. They would even kneel down and call her grandma, let alone listen to her orders. Seeing that they had all agreed, Yun Shujo picked up a skull and walked to the side. 2ZG did not know what Yun Shujo planned to do. Could it be that she wanted to expose her abnormal constitution that could change at will? This might cause big trouble. However, there seemed to be no other way now. How about killing all these people to silence them when they went out? Just as Tuzg was thinking about it, he saw Yun Shujo place the skull on the ground. However, she did not inject any elemental energy into it. Instead, she hopped back. 2ZG was dumbfounded. What did she mean? Did she regret it? Just as Tuzg and the others were puzzled, they saw Yun Shujo throw a vine talisman at the skull. The vine talisman instantly turned into a vine and coiled tightly around the skull. When the skull felt the elemental energy attack from the vine, it shattered with a loud bang, and the vine disappeared without a trace. Yun Shujo snapped her fingers. Done. She wasn't too sure before, but she was just trying her luck. If it succeeded, it would naturally be good. If it didn't, she planned to trick the red skeleton. If not, she would still have a monstrous constitution. As for these people using poison to control it, she wasn't afraid of them talking nonsense. 2ZG and the others were dumbfounded. How could this be possible? Yun Shujo ignored them. Like a hard-working bee, she activated the remaining skulls separately. She was quite lucky and obtained a bottle of high-grade medicinal pills. The reason why this fellow did not activate the skulls at the same time was firstly because he was afraid that the consequences would be too severe. Secondly, he was afraid that the good things would be ruined. Yun Shujo saw that the red skeleton did not say anything and did not send them down to the next level. Hence, she instructed 2ZG to get a few more skulls for her. After all, there were plenty of ghost talismans, so she could continue to play. She would treat it as smashing a golden egg. Chapter 4389. Give me a basin. Yun Shujo shattered more than 20 skulls in one go and obtained a low-grade heaven-grade defensive elemental artifact from them. Her eyelashes were almost fluttering with joy as she said to 2ZG, Brother 2, take off those skulls. I'll open them up and have a look. Everyone was dumbfounded. Firstly, they didn't expect that the ghost talismans could activate these skulls. Secondly, they were surprised that Yun Shujo had so many ghost talismans. After all, even after the goatskin scrolls that produce beginner-level ghost talismans were widely sold, only a few people could successfully draw ghost talismans, and the price was not cheap. Why did Jin Meili have so many ghost talismans? 2ZG was about to help Yunchujo pluck a few more skulls when he heard the red skeleton roar in exasperation. Stop. Stop right now. If you dare to move, I'll turn you into blood. 2ZG did not dare to move carelessly when he heard that. However, he was not particularly worried about the red skeleton turning into blood. This was because he discovered that the reason why the hunter from the Divine Dragon hunting group had turned into blood was not because the red skeleton had some extraordinary means. Instead, it was because a red liquid dripped onto the person's body from the top of his head. However, everyone was too frightened to notice it. Therefore, as long as he was on guard, the red skeleton would not be able to do anything to him. However, in order to avoid complications, it was better to not move at all. The reason why the red skeleton did not say anything for a long time was because it was both shocked and angry. It really did not expect that the inheritance prison's cruel rules would be easily resolved by that ugly freak. It was only to be blamed for setting up the skull back then. It should have been set to be activated with spiritual sense instead of elemental energy. In the beginning, the red skeleton consoled itself. Although that wretched girl had a stomach full of bad ideas, it was impossible for her to have so many ghost talismans, so there was nothing to be afraid of. However, when it saw that Hei Shinjo had activated so many skulls, its claws instantly went numb. If it continued at her speed, very soon, all the skulls in this layer would be destroyed by her. If there were no skulls, how could this inheritance prison be called inheritance prison? The red skeleton said in exasperation, "Damn girl, you are cheating." Yunchujo blinked her eyes and said, "Lord Skeleton, how am I cheating? Didn't you say that as long as you remove 10 skulls and activate the skulls, you will pass?" The red skeleton was almost disintegrated. Yes, she really did not break the rules. The red skeleton said sinisterly, "Although you did not break the rules, I don't like you. I will turn you into blood." As the red skeleton spoke, a drop of red liquid dripped from Yunchujo's upper body. Then, the red skeleton saw Yunchujo directly swallow the drop of liquid into her mouth. The red skeleton laughed evilly. "Damned girl, you're dead meat. You actually swallowed the devouring water. You'll turn into blood soon." Yunchujo laughed lightly. "Lord Skeleton, I've smashed so many skulls just now. I'm really thirsty. How can one drop be enough? Give me a basin." A basin? The red skeleton was so angry that it almost passed out. Did you think that devouring water was a cabbage? No, wait, why didn't she turn into blood? How could she still be alive and kicking to anger him? How was that possible? Yunchujo said leisurely, "Lord Skeleton, by the way, we have been on the 5th floor for a long time. Shouldn't you teleport us to the 6th floor? When I think about how the 6th floor might smash the skull of a good treasure, my hand is very itchy." Chapter 4390, the 18th level of the inheritance prison. Yunchujo had already discovered that the red skeleton was just trying to be mysterious. Other than being able to control the duration of each level, it was just using the water to attack people. As long as it was vigilant enough, it wouldn't be a problem. Moreover, that thing was useless against her. Instead, it was just a small snack for Go Weiba. The red skeleton was clearly extremely angry. Its voice was slightly trembling as it said, You're courting death. TSK, I'm courting death? I've been holding back some of my words for a long time. You have the nerve to call yourself the best voice in the ghost realm just because your voice is like a piece of broken wood? The best male voice is more like it. You have the nerve to call me ugly just because you look like that? Shameless. Shameless. Oh right, didn't you say that someone was secretly scolding you? Let me tell you, that person was me. It's me, it's all me. Are you angry? If you have the ability, come out and fight with me. Hei Shinjo was still brooding over the incident where she was forced to kneel down. Now that she knew that the red skeleton was just bluffing, she naturally would not be bullied by it. The red skeleton choked and fainted from anger. Since it fainted from anger, without its intervention, the inheritance prison started operating at the set time. The red skeleton had extended the time limit by 4 hours, so everyone was directly transported to the 10th level of the inheritance prison. The situation in the 10th level of the inheritance prison was even more terrifying and sinister than the previous 5 levels. However, Hei Shinjo only had those skulls in her eyes now. Fear did not exist at all. This fellow commanded a few people with high elemental energy to pluck 10 skulls before continuing to smash the golden eggs. Everyone's expressions were very subtle. On one hand, they were naturally very happy because there was hope for survival. On the other hand, they felt that Untamed was truly abnormal, to actually have so many ghost talismans. Moreover, after swallowing that droplet of devouring water that could turn a person into blood, nothing actually happened. This was too abnormal. Moreover, she actually dared to argue with that red skeleton. Could it be that she wasn't afraid of the red skeleton taking revenge? How could these people know that Hei Shinjo had fainted from anger? How could they be afraid of a skeleton? After the 10 skulls were activated, everyone was immediately transported to the 11th floor. When the red skeleton came back to its senses, Untamed and the others had already arrived at the 17th floor of the inheritance prison. Hei Shinjo was not satisfied with the harvest. Most of the things she obtained were medicinal pills. She still hoped to obtain the ghost talisman inheritance or the origin tool. The red skeleton thought to itself, "I'll have a good time when I reach the 18th level. Let's see how she can still jump around." After Untamed smashed 10 skulls, a dazzling red light flashed in front of everyone's eyes. When they regained their sight, everyone was a little dumbfounded. After a long while, the short fatty asked, "Little Joe, where is this place? Are we still in the inheritance prison?" It wasn't strange for the short fatty to ask this. The main reason was that the place they were in was like a fairyland. The pavilions were beautiful and magnificent. There was even the faint sound of celestial music. No one would associate this place with the terrifying and gloomy inheritance prison. However, everyone knew in their hearts that this must be the 18th level of the inheritance prison. This kind of conflict made them very uneasy. They even felt that those exquisite pavilions were transformed from evil spirits and contained great danger. Then, the question was, how could they pass through the 18th floor of the prison of heritage? There was obviously no exit here, and there were no rules. Could they only be trapped here forever? Everyone could not help but look at Hei Shinjo. Although they still felt that Untamed was ugly and useless, they still treated her as their backbone. Chapter 4391 was exposed. The corners of Untame's mouth curled up slightly. Of course we're in the prison of inheritance, but since that bone spirit wants us to experience the life of the fairyland, then let's experience it. Let's go, follow this regiment commander around. Everyone's faces stiffened. Regiment commander? Hadn't they already left the prison of inheritance? She was really thick-skinned enough. Untamed led everyone around before leading them into a palace. The items inside were all very exquisite. Even the stone bricks on the ground were carved with exquisite patterns. Everyone sighed in their hearts. If they didn't know that this was the 18th level of the prison of inheritance, they would really feel that this was a fairyland. Untamed casually sat down on the main seat and said with a smile, "You guys don't have to worry. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. Well, just deal with whatever comes our way. Those little ones, close the palace door so that dangerous things won't come in." Those people who were pointed at hurriedly closed the palace door and even put a bolt on it. After a moment of silence, a middle-aged man said with a worried expression, "Miss Jin, what should we do next? What if it keeps trapping us here?" "Don't worry. It's obvious that the bone spirit is stingy. It can't bear to let the array keep running, so it will definitely make trouble," Untamed said lightly. "I really don't understand why it set up this array. So far, nothing dangerous has happened. Is it just trying to trap us for a few days? The man continued to ask. Yun Shujo glanced at everyone with a faint smile and said, maybe. Are you guys hungry? We are iron rice and steel. I have meat buns here. Come, don't stand on ceremony. After saying that, Yun Shujo motioned for the short fatty and 2 Ziji to distribute the buns for everyone. Everyone was really hungry. Ever since they entered the inheritance prison, they had been extremely nervous. How could they have time to eat? Therefore, they took the buns and started eating. After eating 2 buns, Yun Shujo said with a smile, "Are the buns delicious?" Everyone nodded. Needless to say, these buns were really delicious. Do you know why they are so delicious? It's because I added some seasonings. Do you feel the pain in your stomachs? In another 15 minutes, you will die from the poison, Yun Shujo said with a smile. Poison? Everyone's expression changed immediately. There was fear, doubt, and resentment. Yun Shujo squinted her eyes to see everyone's reaction. When her gaze fell on one of them, she gave 2 Ziji a look. 2 Ziji immediately flashed and threw a palm at that person. That person was obviously unprepared. 2 Ziji smacked him directly, and he flew out with a thud and crashed into the palace gate. Following that, there was a series of rustling sounds. A pile of bones appeared on the ground. Following that, the red skeleton's exasperated voice could be heard. Stinky girl, you're playing tricks again. Following the red skeleton's voice, the scene before everyone's eyes changed. It was actually inside a spacious stone hall. Unlike the gloomy and bloody atmosphere on the other 17 floors, there was nothing special here. Everyone was stunned by this change. What was going on? The pile of bones on the ground quickly turned into a red skeleton, just like what they saw outside the main door. The red skeleton said in exasperation, "Stinky girl, how did you see through me?" Chapter 4392 Inheritance Test. Yun Shujo curled up the corners of her mouth and said with a smile, "I've thought about it. You've trapped us in the so-called fairyland, so naturally, you have to do something. What about you, you bone spirit? You're also a pervert who can't stand to see others being good. Maybe you'll pretend to be one of us, then sow discord between us and make us kill each other. That way, you can deal with us and watch a good show. Why not?" Therefore, I pretended to say that the bun was poisonous. If a normal person heard it, they would have a suspicious, frightened, or resentful expression. However, your expression was one of curiosity and schadenfreude. You really did not have the talent to act. In addition, the bone spirit was a bone spirit after all. The way you walked was too stiff. Otherwise, why did you think that I brought everyone so far for no reason? Do you think I have nothing better to do? The red skeleton snorted coldly. I was just careless. Do you think that you can pass through the 18th level of the inheritance prison? Dream on. I was just teasing you before. Soon, you won't be able to laugh anymore. Yun Shujo said indifferently, "Since that's the case, let's begin." The red skeleton saw Yun Shujo's calm expression and disappeared in a huff. A moment later, an old voice sounded from inside the stone room, "Now activate the ghost talisman inheritance and successfully pass the test to become the inheritor. If you fail, kill." Before everyone had time to think carefully, a huge ghost talisman pattern appeared on the stone wall. The old voice sounded again, 10, 9, 8, 2, 1. As soon as the word was spoken, the huge ghost talisman pattern disappeared, and 100 similar-looking ghost talismans appeared on the stone wall. Now, find that ghost talisman from before, 10, 9, everyone's head buzzed. What kind of joke was this? They had only been given 10 seconds to observe, and now they had to pick out one out of 100. How was this possible? Besides, they didn't even realize what was going on just now, let alone remember the details of the ghost talisman. They were really doomed this time. When everyone thought that they were doomed this time, Yun Shujo said slowly, "Second row, fifth from the east." Everyone thought that Yun Shujo must have randomly picked one out. However, after thinking about it, since she was going to die anyway, she could pick whichever one she wanted. You passed the first test. Now, let's begin the second test. Everyone was dumbfounded. What the hell? She actually got it right? Wasn't her luck too heaven-defying? She actually got it right by randomly pointing at a random one? Everyone didn't have time to think too much, because a talisman paper, a ghost talisman pen, and a porcelain bottle of dye used to draw the ghost talisman appeared in front of everyone. Draw the ghost talisman just now. The time limit is 15 minutes, the old voice said. Everyone couldn't believe their ears. This was an impossible task. Not to mention that they didn't know how to draw ghost talismans. Even if they did, how could they finish drawing such complicated ghost talismans in 15 minutes? Wasn't this obviously letting them die? Some people planned to risk their lives to draw the ghost talismans on the stone wall, but they did not expect that the hundreds of ghost talismans on the stone wall had disappeared. When the short and fat man saw that Yun Shujo was a little stunned, he sighed. "Little Joe, are you scared silly? It seems that we are doomed." Yun Shujo came back to her senses and looked at the short and fat man as if he was an idiot. She took out a small square table from her storage ring, spread the talisman paper, and quickly drew it. Chapter 4393, I give up on my inheritance. The short fatty was stunned. Little Joe was not giving up. She wanted to give it a try, right? He shook his head. Although Yun Shujo had told him later that she had drawn those ghost talismans herself, they were only beginner-level ghost talismans. There was no way they could compare to the ghost talismans she wanted to draw. Moreover, even if he was an amateur, it was impossible for him to finish drawing such complicated ghost talismans in 15 minutes. It was obvious that he did not want them to live. The short and fat man couldn't help but feel sad. He was going to die before he had a wife and children. He was really unwilling. Just as the short and fat man was thinking about something, he heard Yun Shujo mumble, "This thing is indeed not easy to draw." The short and fat man came back to his senses and looked at the small square table. He saw that Yun Shujo had put down the ghost talisman pen, and there was a ghost talisman on the table. Yes, a ghost talisman that had been completed. The short and fat man's small eyes were wide open. Why did little Joe draw a similar one to the one on the stone wall? Did she really draw it? Was he dreaming? At this moment, the old voice said, "Time's up. We passed the test successfully." The crowd was dead silent at first, and then they cried with joy, "Oh my God! We passed the test. Jean Meili really drew it successfully. We're saved. We can get out of here alive. Great. We won't be killed. This nightmare is finally coming to an end." The short fatty laughed foolishly with red eyes. "Huh, that's great. I'll get a wife when I get out and give birth to a bunch of kids. If I die accidentally, I won't even have a child." Yun Shujia's eyes twitched and she was about to tease the short fatty. The old voice sounded again, "You're the only one who passed the test. Do you choose to accept the inheritance, or do you choose to give up the inheritance and leave with the others?" Everyone was stunned. What? Jean Meili was the only one who could leave? Everyone's heart sank. How could their lives be compared to the ghost talisman inheritance in the inheritance prison? Besides, they didn't know each other. If they knew each other, they would definitely choose the ghost talisman inheritance. Although the short fatty felt that Yun Shujo wouldn't leave him and Tu Ziji to die, he still said nervously, "Little Joe, you won't leave second brother alone, right? I'm your biological second brother. Look at our looks and our bodies. No one would believe that we're not biological siblings. Yun Shujo, at this moment, the old voice asked again, do you choose the inheritance or the lives of these people? I give up the inheritance. I choose to save these people, Yun Shujo said slowly and firmly. What? The old voice instantly turned into the voice of a red skeleton. Perhaps it felt that it had been exposed, so it decided not to pretend anymore. It said in disbelief, stupid girl, are you stupid? You have to know that this is the ghost talisman inheritance. You have never heard of many ghost talismans in it. Are you really going to give up? Everyone did not expect Yun Shujo to actually choose to save them. For a moment, they could not believe it. Yun Shujo nodded. I have already promised them that I would bring them out of the inheritance prison safely. I have to keep my word. Moreover, they will be my subordinates and my brothers in the future. I naturally cannot leave them to die just because of a dead object like the ghost talisman inheritance. Yun Shujo's words were very calm, but everyone had mixed feelings. There was surprise, shame, and gratitude. They decided in their hearts that they would definitely follow by her side and pledge their loyalty to her to the death. Chapter 4394, Gratitude for Saving His Life. There was nothing he could do to repay it. The red skeleton snorted coldly. TSK, what you say is better than what you sing. You will definitely regret giving up such a powerful inheritance. You will regret it for the rest of your life. No, you are wrong. Since I have chosen, I will not regret it. Moreover, I believe that with my ability, even if I do not obtain the so-called inheritance, I can still look down on the world, Yun Shujo said proudly. The red skeleton was silent for a moment, then said, you're really arrogant. Since you've already made your choice, I'll send you all out of the inheritance prison. As soon as the red skeleton finished speaking, everyone felt a blinding red light flash before their eyes. When they regained their sight, they were already at the swamp where they had picked the rippling flower earlier. Yun Shujo was rather annoyed. She thought to herself, according to the usual routine, she had done such a righteous act. Shouldn't the weapon spirit praise her for sacrificing herself for others and then pass the inheritance to her? They really teleported them out just like that? Fortunately, she remembered some of the hundreds of ghost talismans that appeared on the stone wall. Otherwise, she would have suffered a great loss. Just as this guy was thinking about something, everyone said in unison, Miss Jin, we can't repay you for saving our lives. From now on, we will be at your disposal and will do anything you ask of us. Yun Shujo waved her hand pretentiously and said something magnificent, but she was cursing in her heart. She was shocked when she heard, we can't repay you for saving our lives. She thought that these people were going to give themselves to her. The short and fat man thought of how these people had mocked and despised the three of them before, but now they were obedient like obedient grandsons. He felt very comfortable and happy. 2ZG was much calmer than him. He called Yun Shujo to the side and asked, Little Joe, now that Elder Zhou and the people from the Divine Dragon Hunting Group are dead, how can we let the people above hang the rope? The corners of Yun Shujo's mouth curled up. This is easy. We can just find a reason to deceive them. After all, it's impossible for them to guess that we killed Elder Zhou and the others. 2ZG thought of Yun Shujo's evil schemes and felt that it was not a difficult matter. He then said, even if we can safely leave the Ghost Abyss, the Divine Dragon Hunting Group will not let us go. What should we do next? Return to the base domain? Of course we can't return to the base domain. We have a better place to go. Although the Divine Dragon Hunting Group is powerful, doesn't it still have the Heavenly Phoenix Hunting Group? If we give the remaining rippling flower to the leader of the Heavenly Phoenix Hunting Group to seek protection, they will definitely agree. After all, they don't know Elder Zhou's identity. Yun Shujo had already planned this move. The strength of the Heavenly Phoenix Hunting Group and the Divine Dragon Hunting Group were on par. They wouldn't be happy to use the rippling flower to curry favor with Princess Mei Yan. Moreover, although these people were a little weak, they weren't particularly weak. The Heavenly Phoenix hunting group couldn't ask for less salary. After Yun Shujiu returned to the team, she told everyone about her fabricated story and plan. Those people now obeyed Yun Shujiu's orders, so they naturally had no objections. When they approached the exit, Yun Shujiu told everyone to wait on the spot while she and 2ZG swaggered to the bottom of the exit. When they reached the place, Yun Shujiu pulled her neck and shouted, "People on top, lower the rope." The people on the cliff saw Yun Shujiu and the others and were very puzzled. They asked suspiciously, "Where are Elder Zhou and the people of our divine dragon hunting group? Why are there only the two of you?" Chapter 4395, Squad 9, Elder Zhou and the others discovered a huge secret in the Ghost Abyss. They can't leave for the time being, but they're afraid of delaying the delivery of the rippling flower to Princess Mei Yan. So, they asked us to send the rippling flower over and let you guys send it back to the divine dragon hunting group first. Yun Shujiu stared with wide eyes and lied. The people above were a little suspicious and asked, "Even if what you said is true, why didn't you send our divine dragon hunting group members and send the two of you instead? The divine dragon hunting group has something important to do. As for why they chose the two of us, it's because we have the lowest elemental energy. Even if we have some ulterior motives, we won't be able to stir up any waves," Yun Shujiu said with a hint of self-mockery. "Oh right, Elder Zhou was afraid that you wouldn't believe me, so he specially gave me his identity jade token." Yun Shujiu took out Elder Zhou's jade token and shook it. The people on top had already believed her by 80%. Moreover, these two good-for-nothings were no match for them no matter what they wanted to do. Immediately, they lowered the rope and pulled Yun Shujiu and 2ZG up. "Hand over the rippling flower to us," one of them said. Yun Shujiu and 2ZG looked at each other and immediately attacked one person at the same time. That person was completely defenseless and instantly forced his life. The remaining few people reacted and were extremely shocked and furious. Both sides engaged in a battle. 2ZG's origin energy was superb, and in addition to He Xinjia's abnormal state, those few people were no match for them. In an instant, they became a few corpses. Yun Shujiu kept their storage rings and threw their corpses into the Ghost Abyss. Only then did she lower the rope and pull the remaining people up. Yun Shujiu did not return to Yen City where the Divine Dragon Hunting Group was. Instead, she brought them directly to Cold City where the Heavenly Phoenix Hunting Group was. Yun Shujiu thought that from the names of these two cities, it could be seen that these two hunting groups were not on good terms. Yun Shujiu went through a lot of trouble and finally met the leader of the Heavenly Phoenix Hunting Group, Zhong Jia. Yun Shujiu told him the story that she made up. "Leader Zhong, you don't know that Elder Zhou is not human. In order to pick the rippling flower, he used us recruits as bait. Many of us were eaten by the armored ghost crocodiles. We had no choice but to put up a fight. Although our elemental energy was inferior to theirs, we had more people. Although we suffered a lot of casualties, fortunately, we killed Elder Zhou and his lackeys in the end. However, in this way, the Divine Dragon Hunting Group won't spare us. We can only come and beg for your protection. In order to express our gratitude, we are willing to give you the rippling flower and Elder Zhou's storage ring that we picked. In addition, we can only receive half of our salary, and we only hope to have a chance to live." Commander Zhong naturally knew that the Divine Dragon Hunting Group was going to pick the rippling flower. He wanted to send someone to go, but Ghost Abyss was within the Divine Dragon Hunting Group's sphere of influence, so after weighing the pros and cons, he gave up. He did not expect the pie to come to his doorstep. A blessed person really did not need to be busy. As for protecting these people, it was not a problem. After all, they were mortal enemies with the Divine Dragon Hunting Group, so it was not a big deal. Moreover, these people only wanted half of the salary. They could just arrange to do some hard work. Why not? Captain Zhong thought of this and readily agreed. After taking the rippling flower and old Zoe's storage rings, he said, "How about this? Our Heavenly Phoenix hunting group already has 8 teams. You guys can form a 9th team alone." Yun Shujo gratefully expressed her gratitude and heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. No matter what, it could be considered to be stable for the time being. However, in the following period of time, the 9th squad did not have an easy time. The reason was very simple. They came later, and their elemental energy was weaker than the other squads. Naturally, they were ostracized and bullied. What was assigned to them was all dirty and tiring work. It was work that the other 8 squads were not willing to do. After a long period of time, even though the subordinates did not say anything in front of Yun Shujo, they were all dejected and listless as if they could not afford to live. Chapter 4396. It was easy to fish in troubled waters. Other people did not dare to complain, but the short and fat man did not have so many scruples. "Little Joe, what do you think we are after? In the lowly domain, in the Thunderbolt Corps, who the fuck would dare to torture us like this? This bunch of grandsons are really good. The tasks assigned to us are all picked by others, and none of them are decent tasks," the short and fat man said angrily. Yun Shujo burst into laughter. "Second brother, although the current days are a little terrible, aren't they much better than when we were in the thorn forest? At that time, didn't we also come over for our next meal? How can we get used to the good days? We can't stand the slightest bit of unhappiness." The short and fat man was choked by Yun Shuji's rebuke. He straightened his neck and said, "That's different. Although we didn't eat well in Thorn Forest, other than when the First Division was collecting the human head fee, we were usually free and unfettered. How is it like now? We were bullied like grandsons every day." Yun Shujo picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea. She smiled as she listened to the short and fat man's complaints. Tu Ziji, who was at the side, could not help but feel puzzled. This little pervert had a temper that could not be taken advantage of. Why did she swallow her anger this time? This did not seem like her style of doing things. Could it be that she was holding back some bad water? The short and fat man talked for a long time, and when he saw that Yun Shujo did not reply, he could not help but feel a little embarrassed. After talking for a long time, he was also thirsty. He sat on the chair in a huff and picked up the teacup to drink it in one gulp. Only then did Yun Shujo smile and say, "Second brother, if you cannot bear it, then you will mess up the big plan. Our 9th team is still young and new, so naturally, we cannot be too ostentatious. Furthermore, the group of people I took in had just escaped death in the Ghost Abyss, so they were naturally grateful to me. However, it was just a moment of hot blood. Therefore, we can use this opportunity to temper their temperaments and also to identify if there are any bad apples among them." The short and fat man was stunned for a moment, then he slapped his thigh and said, "I told you. Little Joe, you've never been taken advantage of like this. So you have other plans. Then tell second brother, when do you plan to take care of those people who bullied us? There's no rush. First, use medicinal herbs to recuperate the people below. Wait until their elemental energy levels have increased a little before waiting for an opportunity to take action," Yun Shujo said unhurriedly. If one wanted to defeat the strong with the weak, one had to plan before taking action. In the following period of time, Yun Shujo added medicinal herbs into her subordinates' meals. Moreover, the level of medicinal herbs in the level domain was much higher than those in the base domain, and the effects were better. Moreover, Yun Shujo took the opportunity to eliminate a few subordinates who had 2 hearts. From then on, the 9th squad was as solid as iron, and outsiders were unable to pry into any information that they did not want to leak. Hei Shinjo felt that the time was almost right. Next, it was time to develop allies. However, even though this fellow was already at the 7th level of Yuanhua realm, he was still the weakest among the squad leaders of the Heavenly Emperor hunting squad. The others were mostly at the 4th level of Yuanzuan realm. Because Hei Xinjiu had the lowest elemental energy and was an ugly woman, none of the 8 of them were close to her. Usually, they would mock and ridicule her during meetings. However, this was not a problem for Hei Xinjiu. It was easy to fish in troubled waters and stir them up. As a result, the 8 squad leaders were unlucky. Either this and that got into a fight, or that got into a fight with this. The reason for their fight was all because of Hei Xinjiu. This guy would turn into one of them to provoke the other guy for no reason. When the other guy went to settle the score, the other guy would naturally deny it, and they would disagree with each other. The end result would be a dog biting a dog's fur. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.